Amazing the attendance when you have cake and cookies.
That's right. The elementary school kids brought in a lot of people too.
All right, we are go for launch.
Good evening and welcome to the May 11th, 2022 Henrietta Town Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin tonight with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the preceding meeting?
I don't know whose has it.
Somebody make it.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 27th meeting.
I will second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have a presentation of the Antoinette Brown Blackwell Woman of the Year and ABB scholarships. Who's going to be presenting?
Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, thank you very much for letting us make our award presentations this evening. Martha Hope, our board president, will give some welcoming remarks.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And good evening. And welcome to the Antoinette Brown Blackwell Society Woman of the Year celebration. To Supervisor Schultz, Henrietta Town Board, and guests, good evening again. We are always honored to share this opportunity and this space with you each year. We certainly do thank you. The Antoinette Brown Blackwell Society celebrates its 40th anniversary this year of serving the Henrietta community. Founded by Helen Elam and Vivian Heffernan. Each year we honor a deserving woman and a student of Henrietta. Over the years, we have awarded 37 women and given 50 scholarships. The Antoinette Brown Blackwell Society has given $50,000 in scholarships. We first began with 500. We moved up to 1,000 and then 1,500 for 2 students. This year, we are able to give $2,000 to each student to help them on their way. Our students have gone on to practice medicine, music, education, science, and ministry. It is our goal to touch others' lives in a positive way without any discrimination. We are a team, and our mission at Antoinette Brown Blackwell Society is to help others. In the words of Helen Keller, alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you.
Next on our program would be Tina Thompson and the scholarship presentations.
Our first scholarship winner this evening is Kayla Dangler. Kayla, would you come up, please?
Be sure to speak into the microphone so it gets recorded and can be in the minutes.
Kayla is hardworking, dependable, and conscientious. Her teachers say that she displays sensitivity, caring, and enthusiasm in all she does. They also say that she distinguishes herself from other students by combining her passion for helping others with her interest in STEM. Kayla writes in her autobiography that the biggest challenge I faced throughout my high school career was trying to learn and maintain a sense of normalcy during the pandemic, the event that completely shifted my reality. With only in-person school 2 times a week, Kayla didn't sit around and scroll through her phone or check social media. She found opportunities to help others. She says, "It wrecked my heart to see the spike in loneliness in our overall population, especially the elderly who no longer could have their families visit." So Kayla got a job in a local nursing home. At first, she was afraid that she might have taken on more than she could handle, but she learned that the opposite was true. She found through research the right system for her to balance work, school, and home responsibilities. In addition to working with the most vulnerable members of our local population, Kayla found time to participate in school activities such as musical theater, RH Singers, the swim and dive team, and the Women's Empowerment Club. She is an officer for Natural Helpers, which helps peers fight against the stigma of mental health. She also worked with Pandemic Punch, which consisted of a group of students who sewed and distributed over 1,500 masks. Her studies included AP classes and being a member of RIT's STEP program. Kayla has received numerous awards and honors. She is a member of the National Honor Society. She received the Rose Award with Spotlight Theater, the Royal Comet Award for Team Spirit and Competitive Ability. She's been inducted into the Youth Hall of Fame. She received the Scholar Athlete Award and was recognized as an Urban League Black Scholar. Kayla also has a job. She works at Rochester Regional Health as a unit assistant, where she schedules surgeries, medical consultations, and diagnostic appointments. As you can see, she has a passion for healthcare, and Kayla will be attending the University of Rochester to study neuroscience. Yay! Kayla, we wish you continued success as you navigate this next chapter of your life and follow your calling. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Wow, I feel so lucky right now. I just really hope that everyone understands how much this means to me. As you can tell, STEM has been my passion, and I'm so glad that I finally figured out where I want to go in life. And I think this is really going to help me continue my education at the University of Rochester. And once again, I just want to let you all know how thankful I really am. Thank you.
Don't leave. Kayla.
On behalf of the town board, we just want to thank you for all the work that you've done and the role model that you are to all the young people that are coming after you and present this book to you.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have the honor of introducing our next scholarship winner, Patrick Murray. Patrick, can you join me? Thank you. I have to take my glasses off for this. Patrick is a caring and respectful and patient young man who personifies the concept of being open to growth. He's relied on his athleticism to learn, dedication, and perseverance. He has a strong commitment to his team, scouting, and academics. He is dedicated to doing his best in all things. He demonstrates the kind of leadership leading by example. Patrick is a 3-season athlete. He's a member of the McQuay cross country team, as well as indoor and outdoor track. In his senior year, he was the runner who brought in the championship for the cross-country team. Pat was also a senior patrol leader for the Boy Scouts. He planned and supervised weekly troop meetings, activities to ensure the rank advancement for over 30 Boy Scouts in Troop 134. Patrick has spent many years in scouting, starting in Cub Scouts and earning his Eagle Scout Award this past December. Pat's Eagle Scout project was building a new archway in Garden Bend at the Rotary Sunshine Camp. He's also contributed many hours to other community service projects. Here's a sampling of his service. Urban Plunge, which was an immersion service trip into the city of Rochester, where he helped at the Morning Star foster care. He spent many more hours with Autism Up, Big Brothers, 25 hours of relay from McQuaid Cross Country, Ronald McDonald House, and Green Angels, and many more organizations. He also works at Locust Hill Country Club as a caddy and a bagroom attendant. He has been in high honor roll and recognized by the American Chemical Association or Society. Patrick likes to know why and how things work. So his recent endeavor was to build a massive Lego city in his parents' basement. The city was planned to scale, maximizing space, of course, for a city of the future. This was Pat's pastime during COVID lockdown. Good way to do it. This probably explains why he is going to Clarkson this fall and majoring in civil engineering. We believe that Patrick will make significant contribution to his community wherever his path may take him. Patrick, we wish you continued success as you pursue your dreams. Congratulations.
Patrick, on behalf of Supervisor Schultz and the entire town board and all the community of Henrietta, we congratulate you and we wish you well in your future endeavors. Congratulations. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Pat McShay. I'm taking Patty Ziner's place. Unfortunately, Patty came down with COVID. So anyways, you'll bear with me. I did some research and here we are. It's my pleasure to introduce our Henrietta Woman of the Year 2022. Our award recipient is Jody Day. Jody is a very popular recipient. And also she's the dear mother of 3 sons and 6 grandchildren. Jody is a devoted friend, a world traveler, and charitable community neighbor. She was a graduate of Rush Henrietta, which is now Roth, in 1959. She was awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award in 2005. Her service career began when Jody joined the U.S. Army Women's Army Corps, and she was in it for 3 years, after which she continued to serve the United States service by joining the New York State National Guard, which she retired from, 20 years of service. Thank you. And between times, Jody was a practical nurse for many years. So retiring from the University of Rochester Med Center, in between managing those 3 boys, right? So anyways, and this happens to be National Nurses Week. So thank you. Yeah. Then on to a bus driver for Rush Henrietta School and stuff, passing along her kind to others philosophy to her students, riders. Her famous quote is I've always had good kids on my bus. You're very lucky. So anyways, Jody's community service continues. She's a volunteer at her church. She is also a member of the Henrietta Garden Club. She's presently serving in the Kicking Hunger Committee, and she's also in the Rush Henrietta Board Food Cupboard. And also she's in Food Link, and always charitable. With pandemic, she set up a satellite food bank at the senior center. She delivers food and necessities to those in need. Her kindness and service and charity are exemplified. In honor of this, Jody, we thank you.
Jody, why don't we have that present you the certificate, and then we'd love to hear you speak.
If I took it out, it would break. Well,
If I was on your bus, it wouldn't have been all good kids.
been okay anyways. I first wanted, Supervisor, I'd like to thank you and the town board for having the foundation here to do this. And the foundation, I'd like to say thank you very much. It's really an honor to get this award. I was shocked. I'd like to thank all my friends who have been my backup. I've got a lot of volunteers that helped us accomplish all these things we did during the pandemic. I've had a lot of support. Else to. You know, I always work in the town with the people with the food cupboard and people ask me what I do. And I always say, well, our group is neighbors helping neighbors. And that's exactly what the people in the town of Henrietta do. They have a big heart and they really look out for one another. So I like to see that go on. And that's about it. So thank you very much, everyone. Let me keep it short.
Patrick, if you would come up with Jody, it's my privilege to present additional certificates of recognition to the award winners this evening. I have certificates from the Monroe County Legislature. Our representatives are Steve Brew, Rick Milne, Michael Udelson, and Susan Hughes Smith. I also have certificates from Senator Patrick Gallivan's office and from Assembly Member Harry Bronson's office. And I would like to present these to you. So here we go. This is for you and Kayla. And I won't read them because you've already heard all of the accomplishments of our award winners this evening, and it's I know that people I know that this town, the board has things to do, so I'm just going to pass these out, and we will adjourn to the lobby so we can take some photographs. Thank you so much.
Thank
Very
you.
much,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
For those online, we're going to give folks time to exit before we start the special use permits.
Steve, do you mind if I take this off?
No. It's not, if you get up and move. Yeah. That's why we have them so far apart.
I got 2 shots, 2 boosters, and I've got natural immunity, so I'll take a chance.
What did I do with
What do you think the chance of that is at church? Pretty slim?
I don't know. I didn't have a chance to talk to this team to see where they are, what their schedule is. Well,
congratulations.
They're remodeling.
What was that? Oh, too hot. Yeah, it is pretty warm.
Yeah.
Have they reached out to the Interfaith Council? Any other churches?
Let's subject that to it.
The synagogue doesn't, right? They meet on Saturdays. Okay.
It was mild.
I don't think we have one left.
No.
We used to be right across from the arch of the Catholic Church. That's sold out.
I had lunch with a friend and she called me the next night and said, guess what? Yeah, she lives in a senior place. That's a whole bunch of cake out there.
Right, could you pull that door shut once they're out of it? Yeah. Got the air kicked out a little bit more.
Well, Steve, I think it's going to be hard to top that.
Yeah. All right, ready to reconvene. First up, we have special use permit application number 2022-014, BJ's Restaurant, 760 Jefferson Road, to demolish an existing restaurant building and construct and operate a restaurant serving alcohol with dine-in and takeout meal service and with outdoor seating. Please introduce yourself and your relationship to the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Jared Taylor. I am the applicant on behalf of BJ's Restaurants. Thank you for hearing our proposal here today. So we are proposing to build a new restaurant in the place of the existing closed vacant restaurant of similar operation, to be a full service sit-down dine-in restaurant with the sale of a full line of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption. We're also proposing to have an outdoor patio, and a big part of our operation recently, really due to COVID, has become takeout sales, takeout food sales, as well as takeout sales of beer and wine to really serve public convenience and necessity. BJ's Restaurant is a full restaurant operation. The kitchen will be open and all menu items available for sale and purchase at all times the restaurant is open. This is not a restaurant that morphs into a bar at night. This is absolutely a family establishment. We have over 200 locations currently throughout the country. This is not a franchisee. This is the exact same BJ's Restaurant, if you're familiar with BJ's Restaurant, that we operate at multiple locations successfully throughout the country. We will be providing over 150 local jobs through the operation of the restaurant as well. And we look forward to coming to the community and being a part of the business community here as well. I think the elevations were on the screen briefly. You can see we're really proposing four-sided architecture here that has a lot of different materials, articulation in the building elevations as well. And for example, the trash enclosure is also adjacent to the building. And so we're not going to have a trash enclosure that is out in the parking lot. It really keeps things neat and tidy by having it adjacent to the building. I believe our civil engineers are here tonight as well, and I think they're setting up at the podium. I apologize as I had to attend remotely. Yeah, here you can see a photo of a similar existing location. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
So a couple just notes about this, in doing investigation of this particular out parcel. The parcel itself is landlocked and has no or minimal parking for it. So there needs to be an easement or other agreement providing for the sufficient parking as well as access. So one of the things we'll be doing is conditioning the approval upon demonstration of those two items. And then there's a third thing we've noticed. We dug up the original approval, and that is there's an existing easement agreement relative to the site that basically limits the square footage of the building to 7,000 square feet. If you are to go over 7,000 feet, you need to essentially enter into an agreement or easement from Home Depot is who that's tied with. So if to get the site plan approved with this building square footage over 7,000 feet, we'll need to see an executed agreement to that effect.
Okay, good evening. I'm Randy Bebout with Bowler Engineering. With me tonight is Matt Oates from Benderson Development. Jared went over really the project in general. Just touch on the site briefly. As you mentioned, there's a parcel here that's landlocked. The building that's sitting within that parcel, there was a question about setback compared to adjacent outlot buildings. I don't know if this was provided to the town, but just in summary, the Red Robin is set back 82 feet. The 110 grill is at 86.5 feet, and this building would be at 102.2. So it is set back further than the two adjacent out parcels. There's a minor reduction in parking associated with sort of, if you will, changing out the building. That parking reduction is here along the front. The perimeter parking on the three sides or four sides, if you will, of the new building is the same as it was with the existing facility. So there's nothing changing there. And Benderson has been working with Home Depot on the parking, and we will be in front of the zoning board and the planning board to get the necessary approvals for this restaurant. So with that, I can answer any questions that the board may have.
Sure. And for anybody who's not familiar with the site, this is the former Macaroni Grill. Correct?
That's correct. Yes. My apologies.
No problem. Questions?
I have none.
The thing I'll also say, in case anyone's listening in, it's no relation to BJ's Wholesale. Sure you get that question about, because we don't have any BJ's restaurants around here that I'm aware of, but obviously we have a BJ's Wholesale in town.
Correct. There is no relation.
I'm glad that another empty building is going to be eliminated. That's a positive for Henrietta.
Yep, absolutely.
That's positive. So this is just a question of process. This is an application for to have a restaurant in this particular area, but also a special use permit for the patio.
Yeah, so if you remember, we changed the process for restaurants. So the 4 sub-uses, for lack of a better term, that they're including is sit-down meal service, takeout meal service, outdoor seating, and alcohol to be served.
Okay, and that's all
So if they
combined in
wanted to
one.
add, for instance, entertainment, that essentially produces noise outside, they would need to update their special use permit, because
Okay,
there's a couple others that 24-hour operation is another one that's a subcategory. So
and is this subject to seeker?
it is, and that has been done. As you can imagine, it's pretty straightforward considering it's existing site. There was an existing restaurant, so the use is the same. There's not really adding any permeable surface. In fact, I think there's a slight reduction.
That's correct.
Yeah, so there's a slight reduction in impermeable surfaces, excuse me. So it's from a seeker standpoint, it's as cut and dry as you can do, but because of the amount of area they're disturbing, there was a seeker process.
Okay, and who is the lead agency for seeker?
There is no lead agency because it's not a type.
So
1
we don't
action.
have to approve the seeker?
It's, so what we do have a resolution. I'll be putting forth a resolution. It includes issuing a negative deck. It's not a coordinated review, but we did the seeker on it. So for a non-coordinated review, you know, we do the seeker. The planning board would do analysis for their portion, that type of stuff. So it's not coordinated all one review.
Okay, so we're approving the seeker, and the
Correct.
idea is to approve the seeker tonight.
And so the resolution that I'll be putting on the table is to
Issue a negative declaration.
issue a negative declaration and approve the special use permit.
Okay, it's just that I do not recall seeing the seeker.
It is in the packet. Like I said, we didn't make a big deal of this one because it's
Replication.
right, because it's a reuse of an existing building. Now, in this case, they're knocking it down and rebuilding, which is what triggers the seeker. But if they weren't doing that, it wouldn't even trigger a seeker. But it's the same use, same location. But if,
Where is, can you point me to where I should be looking at? Because I see the
So-
EAF form.
in the, I just saw it. At the top level, it's not down in the special use permit applications folder. There's a 10-170 BJ's Restaurant Seeker.
It's a short environmental assessment. form.
Yeah, it's the short form. It's not the long form you're used to.
It's on the bottom of
The
the.
EAF?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
that's
on
why
the first
it's,
page.
yeah, it's much shorter than, because again, because of the nature of this particular use, it doesn't require much in the way of seeker.
Okay, so the EAF is standing in place of the full seeker?
So again, for a coordinated review, you're going to do there's two different forms. There's a full EAF. If you apologize, we haven't been through this part yet. Most of the stuff that comes before us is a coordinated review.
Yep.
And they're used to the full EAF, which is a much longer process, requires a lot more gathering. In this particular case, they understand that that's not applicable for everything. And so for cases like this, we can elect to use the short environmental assessment form, which basically just says there's no impact, right?
Right.
So, you know, the use is permitted, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. There's no significant impacts. Again, it's the same use, it's the same footprint. And in this case, again, there's even a slight reduction in impervious surfaces. So if anything, it's actually better. The other thing is it will be, because it's a newer building, it'll be under the newer building codes. So in pretty much every way you look at it, it's going to be better than the existing conditions. So that's why there really wasn't much time spent on it. But from a process standpoint, yes, we do have to issue a negative deck.
Okay.
Don, do you have anything to add to that?
No, not really. Did you have any specific questions, Millie, that I can help answer?
No, I was just wanted to make sure that I had looked at everything that I needed to look at in order to vote on this tonight.
Yeah.
Understood. Yeah, I don't, usually for seekers, it's a, you know, you have a new use, and this one here kind of is taking the place of a similar existing use. So you're not seeing a lot of the similar, you know, lengthy traffic reports and things like that you might see for, you know, a completely new use.
Okay.
Or if it was significantly different use. So again, for
Yeah.
instance, when Chick-fil-A came in to take the place of the Crab Shack, it obviously has a very significant traffic pattern
Right.
than the Crab Shack. So that's why that one did do a full EAF and a coordinated review. But for ones like this, and as I said, if they were using the existing building, there wouldn't even be an EAF. It wouldn't even
Right.
trigger, but because they're taking the building down and putting a new one up, it does trigger it. So this is just, like I said, I think it's the first case for this particular board.
Understood.
All right. And just in the comments was the question about consent from Home Depot. Does that need to be obtained or it has?
Yeah, so that is that's in the condition of the special use permit. So when, in the special use permit, we added 3 conditions. One is in parking easement, one is the access easement, and the third is if they can't come to an agreement with Home Depot, they can shrink their footprint down to 7,000 square feet. Or they can get the approval for get an agreement from Home Depot. So it's conditioned on those 3 things.
Okay.
It won't be able to move forward. The site plan won't be able to move forward until they have those three things resolved.
And if I could, as the applicant, could I speak to that?
Sure.
Thank you. So we've absolutely been in conversations with Home Depot. We've known this since the beginning. We do have the verbal agreement. It's really a condition upon this deal moving forward. And we do intend to provide that, as well as the cross-access parking and the access easements. If I may, I wanted to speak just a little bit more about the operation to clear up. We are not proposing any live entertainment, no band, no dancing or anything like that. So it is proposed as the sale of a full line of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption. And I wanted to clarify that we are also proposing the sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption. It's BJ's Restaurant. It's really BJ's Restaurant and Brew House, although we will not be brewing any beer at this location. There are BJ's Restaurants beers, which we brew at our breweries throughout the country. That can only be purchased at a BJ's restaurant. And so there's really a demand to be able to purchase beers in sealed packaged containers to take, say, with to-go orders for offsite consumption at home as well.
So is that like 6-pack case, that type, or you're talking?
Yeah, so it'd be exactly. So it'd be 6-packs and bottles and growlers.
Okay.
And our request is if the resolution could please also include the approval of such off-site beer and wine sale, please.
We can do, does that need to be in the special use permit, Don?
Why are we limited? I wonder if our special use permit limits,
We don't address that for a restaurant.
it talks about alcohol sales, though. I just wonder
It
how it's
does,
worded.
it says for alcohol to be served. It doesn't necessarily say to be sold retail.
Mm-hmm.
Did the state just change the regulations for their alcohol license to allow off-site sales?
They did.
So I don't,
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always been there for microbreweries. Because I know, for instance, Custom Brew Craft you could drink on site, you could take home growlers. Almost every microbrewery I know sold beer too, so
Yeah.
that's not unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, in a sense, it's similar to takeout food, right? I mean, they retail food, people buy it and take it home and eat it.
Well, why don't I just do this for now? When I put this forth, number 4 will be for alcohol to be served and sold.
Okay.
But we don't have that category in our town code for restaurants. It's basically whether they have an alcohol license or not. So whether you can sell it that's more with you discussing with, in other words, your, the alcohol, what is it called?
Liquor license?
Yeah.
It might be better, yeah. I wonder now, having this discussion, if we might always just have it alcohol sold,
Right.
because we don't get into whether they're selling,
If they're taken home, that goes, my point is if it's alcohol to be sold, that goes with either
Take.
sit down, is served in-house, or if they've got takeout.
yeah.
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 So you want me to just make number 4 for alcohol to be
I
sold?
think that'll clear it up.
Thank you for clarification. The reason I request that is in the future, when our liquor attorney moves forward with the liquor license, I don't know the local law in enough detail, but we have seen situations where we have, say, a use permit and it did not include the component for offsite, and we were required to go and obtain another use permit for offsite. And it sounds like that will not be the case here, and I appreciate the clarification.
No problem. If you or Matt sends me something, I'm happy to write we can put together a compliance letter for your liquor license that basically said this is your code compliant.
Thank
We
you.
won't actually be able to write that until after we see until the 3 conditions are met. But as soon as those 3 conditions are met, we'll be able to write that letter.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep. Other questions? Anything from the public? Coming up, if you want to make it easier, yeah, you can use the hand mic or you can use the one.
That's fine.
Okay.
My name's Rich Rowe. I live at 1026 Middle Road. Question I got, because you said that there's going to be takeout. Is it going to be serviced through a drive-through window, or are patrons going to be required to come in, or is there going to be special lane for someone to park that they will call a number and it'll be run out?
There is no drive-through aspect of this project. Jared, can you speak to whether they're walking in or there's spaces where your members are bringing that out?
Correct. There is absolutely no drive-through and associated drive-through queuing. They would have to come in and park. We are proposing takeout signage. Think of like an ADA parking sign on a pole that designates parking spaces adjacent to the building as takeout parking signs. And then essentially the person could, hopefully call ahead, have their order placed and come in and pick it up and then return to their vehicle. Or I believe we're now currently coordinating curbside delivery as well, where they call when they arrive, we bring it out to them while they wait in the vehicle in a parking space.
Great. Any other comments from the public? Do we have anything online? Any other questions, comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit number 2022-014 BJ's Restaurant. Fellow board members, I have resolution 10-170, 2022 to issue a negative declaration and approve special use permit application number 2022-014 for BJ's Restaurant Incorporated for a new restaurant at 760 Jefferson Road. I'm not going to read the whole resolution, but I'm going to read the 4 sections of the special use permit with regards to restaurant. 1, for sit-down meal service. 2, for takeout meal service. 3, for outdoor seating. And 4, for alcohol to be sold. I'm also going to read the following conditions upon which the approval is subject. That easements or other agreements providing for sufficient parking for the restaurant are provided and acceptable to the town. 2, easements or other agreements providing for sufficient access to the restaurant across adjacent parcels are provided and acceptable to the town. 3, that given existing easements agreements relative to the site plan be developed such that either 1, the building floor plan is less than 7,000 square feet, or 2, in the event the building floor plan is greater than 7,000 feet, the submission to the town in a form acceptable to the town attorney of a signed reciprocal easement or operation agreement from Home Depot allowing for the larger proposed buildings.
Go ahead for second. Second.
Any discussion on the resolution as written? Any further questions regarding seeker? Hearing none, then please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. Do you have an idea as to when you might be starting demolition and then building the new? Do you have a
Thank you.
targeted open date?
Greatly appreciated. So we're going to be able to we're going to start construction immediately after issuance of the building permit. It's typically 6.5 months from building permit issuance to open for business. We do want to move as quick as we can. This approval tonight helps us very much. I wish I had, and I don't have an exact schedule at this time. We have a bit more entitlement to get through, and we're developing construction drawings right now for submittal as well.
And Matt, I'm sure you know, you don't need to meet those 3 requirements to do the demolition. If you want to get a head start on the demolition, you can go get the demolition permit, but yeah, before you can get the building permit, we'll need those 3 conditions met. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have special unit. Let me start again. Unit. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-15 and 18. Masonic Care Community, Erie Station Road, to construct a senior living facility offering recreational amenities, including walking paths, gymnasium, pool, etc., and to have a building height of 53 feet. I will note that we are still within the 30 days of the call for lead agency, so we will be taking no action tonight, but we want the presentation and we want to hear public input. That way, if there's something significant, you guys will have a chance to potentially make changes before the actual hearing where we can make a ruling. So go ahead and introduce yourself and your relationship to the project.
Hello and good evening. My name is Ed Martin. I'm an engineer with DDS. I'm here tonight representing the application. In attendance this evening also is Mr. Michael Morris, who is a representative of the Masonic Order that is putting this development together. I trust the board has had an opportunity to review our submission. It's an 89-acre parcel located at the northeast corner of Erie Station Road and Middle Road. And the vision is to create a community serving seniors. The Masons have put together a design team that has really created a vision that's reflected in the drawings that we've submitted, including the one shown here. We have approximately 200 units to provide housing, but it's a community. As I said, there's going to be recreational opportunities. There is a community center centrally located, and all of the improvements are private, including the roadway, the water supply, the sanitary sewer, and the drainage system, of course. We are well into design drawings and we'll be submitting within the next week to your planning board for site plan approval. I understand that there may be some concern with the height of the buildings, considering that we are asking for a special use permit to allow 53 feet. We have reviewed the elevations and can assure you that the constructed buildings will not exceed the horizon view. And we did provide some information to your head engineer for site elevations versus roof elevations, and I trust he had opportunity to communicate with you.
It was actually ultimately to me, and I was doing the analysis, but.
Okay. So as you can see, there's a vision here that has been incredibly well thought out, and we are in the process of doing the hard design and look forward to pursuing approvals to that end. So we're here tonight respectfully asking that you consider granting the special use permit. We do understand that because of the seeker timeframe, you cannot take action. So we're eager to solicit your feedback. So with that, please share with me.
Sure. So I'll start out on a couple of things. One of the things that I was looking to set on this is, I'll call it a maximum roof elevation. So if you basically look at the top of the roof, we're going to basically put a limit on it so that it stays essentially below the roadway. Because depending on where you put that 53-foot height, where it's currently located, that's fine. But if you were to put that right near the intersection, it would be imposing on the view sheds of the houses to the south. So when I did that analysis, we're going to set one cap, and I think it was at 4. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I'll get those to you. I'll email those to you. I did that analysis this afternoon, but it's about 460 feet. The only thing that would stick up above that is the cupola, and so we would make a special allowance for that. Even so, that cupola is still below the elevation of the intersection of Middle Road and Erie Station Road. So that's good. It looked like the development pushed a little bit to the south. But I also, in looking at the elevation lines, it looks like you were trying to find the largest area of flat space to put the apartment building in the community center. So we at least understand that. The couple other things there, we had discussed with you a park access road coming in off of Middle Road near where the basically where the pump station is. In talking with our town engineer, it's not a problem for it to go through the floodplain. So to the north of the pond is fine, but I'll want our engineering team to coordinate with you to get that on the drawing. So when you're doing the rough grading, we have essentially the base of where the road will be. And then there was some question from the county on secondary access. They were pushing back on a secondary access. I look at it that for one that size from a apparatus, I don't understand how they can say it doesn't need a secondary access. I absolutely assume our fire marshal is going to say it absolutely needs a secondary access. So we'll be reaching out to you. I didn't have a chance to have that discussion with our fire marshal, but assuming he's going to require a secondary access, we'll get that information to you to use when you're discussing with the county. For those not familiar with the plans, there was one access off of Middle Road, one access off of Erie Station Road. Yeah, so those are the majority of my notes. I will say that the overall development, I like the look of it. I like that for a lot of the stuff, you know, the apartments in the community center are an example. On the south side, they're, you know, 2-story or 3-story. On the north side, they have one extra story because of the change in elevation. So you essentially used the building as a retaining wall.
Exactly.
I think that's a good use of the space to minimize the area just to the southwest of the southwesternmost complex. That one looks like it's going to be a pretty steep hill. You may have a problem with kids on sleds coming in through people's crashing into their buildings there. But overall, I think you guys did a really good job in laying it out. You know, again, I wish there was a way to push it further to the south, but in looking at the elevation, it doesn't look like that could be done without a really significant amount of expense, but with the amount of earth that would have to be moved. But those are my comments. So anyone want to go next?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Martin, for your presentation. I think these questions might be directed maybe to Mr. Morris also. And I guess I'll just throw these out here. I looked up Masonic care communities. I assume that you're affiliated with the ones in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Connecticut. There's one in Utica also, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there is.
Yep. He's got yeah. So Joe is new to the board since the initial discussions from this. So.
Okay.
So go ahead and I'm going to let him answer that.
Okay.
Yeah. So in New York, we have a, I can't talk. We have a Masonic care community in Utica, New York. It's 400 acres. It houses 500 residents. That's a full care facility going from nursing care to assisted living to senior living. But what the trustees have been doing is thinking about regional Masonic care communities in which it's just senior living only, not the full care. We'll be working with other agencies in the community to to help and assist that transition when and if needed. So we have a location here in Henrietta. We also have a location in New Rochelle and looking for others. But you mentioned Pennsylvania. Yes, familiar with Elizabethtown, and we're using Pennsylvania as a model for this regional Masonic care community. Highly successful. We're not the first to do it, but it's a good idea. It's a good idea to do it here in New York.
Good. I appreciate that. And you actually hit my second question because I was looking at the other sites And it was that combination you talked about: independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, long-term care. This one is going to be senior independent living.
Senior independent living
Very good.
with we're thinking about a multi-use facility in the community center, which can hold up to 200 people. Parking is on the north side of the building to sort of keep down light pollution and things. So, but the multi-purpose unit will be for some Masonic events. It can be for community events, theater, music, weddings, corporate events, that type of thing. So,
and Joe, just so you know, they had a series of meetings, including neighborhood meetings with the folks who live just to the south of this, to gather their concerns and to, build that into the plan. So that's one of the things why you'll see the parking is all on the far side of the building, towards the throughway side as opposed to the houses side, the residential side.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that's probably all that I have for you. Thank you, Mr. Morris.
thank you.
Mr. Martin, I did have a question for you about construction. I have not yet seen a topographical or contour map of the property. I've walked the adjacent property. My understanding of it, and you talked about is it the southwesternmost building acting as a retaining wall? I think that's
No, so on the southwesternmost building.
I'm sorry, that was the sled problem.
That was
Okay.
it's a steep, relatively steep slope, which, like I said, looks like it'll make a great sledding hill.
Sure. My concern is that having taken a look at it, it looks like the natural contour of the land winds up draining the bulk of the water to the east before it winds up going to the north. I'm just wondering if you have any concerns right now about drainage of surface water or drainage of groundwater, and what the natural construction process might do to any piping or tiling that's in the field right now.
So to answer the latter question, I have no concern. We are, I would say, 3/4 of the way through our stormwater management design, which is going to be fully compliant with the required New York State DEC permit. All drainage will be directed northerly to a large facility with final treatment occurring in the pond, discharging to the wetlands to the north. We've done several borings to a depth of approximately 20 feet and don't find anything of concern whatsoever. So I don't think groundwater will become an issue, and surface water is very easily handled in the system that we're designing.
Okay. Because I know it exists right now in that field. The property adjacent to that to the east gets very, very damp in the spring, and this is going to alleviate most likely that concern.
It will, and I find that most developments do alleviate adjacent, not maybe all of them, but certainly where the properties meet. A lot of those areas drastically improve as a result of development, just because of how strict the DEC permit is.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Do you know, or is it too early to know what you're going to be charging for these units? And the reason I'm asking you that question is I actually went into the senior center and talked to some of the seniors, and there is such a huge amount of seniors looking for affordable, but what's affordable to some people is not necessarily affordable to our seniors.
We're currently working on a detailed business plan. So I don't have the exact figures. We're using as a model the same kind of rate structure that's used in Utica, New York. So with cottages and apartments and so on. And you have to break it down. It's not just monthly rent. It's utilities, it's taxes, it's a whole list of things. It was I have a presentation was showing you what the charges are in Utica. We're thinking it's going to be comparable, but we've not finished that study. But I will say that in Utica, Acacia Village, which is a senior living community there, it's currently occupied at 95% level and working well. So I would think it would be comparable, frankly.
So it's going to be affordable. It's not going to be low income. It's not going to be
No,
subsidized.
we're not doing any government subsidies at all right now. But there's your single bedroom, 2-bedroom. So we are looking for some units that are, I'll say, more affordable. Of course, cottages, 2-bedroom, 2-car garage, they're going to be higher. But that's the plan. But be happy to send you the current rate structure for Utica to give you an idea of.
Yeah, I would be
of
interested to
comparables.
see that.
Certainly.
Yeah, thank you. And
Sir, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, how many people would you be expecting in this? You said 200 units. What is that
Well,
translate?
200 units, and it's phase one is 120. Phase two is a villa apartments that we don't have its current schedule on when we'd be doing that. So, but it's single bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments. The villa apartments are typically 2-bedroom. So multiply by 1.7, 1.75, something of that
Something in
order.
that area.
Some people will be
Sure.
single. So that's the estimate that I would give you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna ask you while you're doing that. I know we asked this question at a previous meeting, but for folks wondering, this is for more than just members of the Masons. You had a breakdown as to, at Utica, what percentage were Masons and what percentage were just people in the community?
Yes, that's right. This is not just strictly for people who are Masons. But currently in Utica, the percentage is roughly 75-25 Masons, 75% of the general community. And I would anticipate it to be similar, but that will just depend on demand.
Did you say 75% Masons?
No,
The other way around.
25% Masons, 75%
25%
general community.
And when you say senior living, is it 55? Is that how do you break that down? If somebody asked me, how old do you have to be in order
To be considered a senior.
to be considered a resident?
I wish I knew the exact answer to that right now. I don't.
Okay.
But most of the residents in Utica, they're probably 70 and above.
Okay.
But so we'll have to work on that. What is the definitions? 55 and higher. Probably most are going to be 60, 65 and higher, I would guess. But
Okay.
we've not come up with a strict criteria. On
And the
that.
largest building that's 53 feet without the steeple, that's more of a central, a community building. It's not a church, right?
It's not a church.
And there's no residents in that building, right?
No, that's in the community. Well, there's attached apartments.
I saw that, yeah.
That zigzag thing, that's 64 apartments, single and double
Yeah.
side, and that's attached to the community center, which is approximately 50,000 square feet. And in that facility, there will be a couple of Masonic lodge rooms. There'll be a section for the Masons. There will be dining services for events and for residents of the community, as well as wellness centers, libraries, and so on. So it's
So as far as the residential aspect, they're all 2 and 3 stories.
yes, that's
Well,
correct.
and some ones as well,
Well,
right?
the ones that-
cottages?
Yeah, in the apartments, again, if you're looking from the thruway up south, then some of them will look 3-story, but because of the elevation, if you're looking down, from Erie Station Road, they'll appear as 2-story buildings.
I was worried more about the height. I knew there
Right.
were some singles.
None of those, so the apartment building portion of that structure, that's 35 feet, if I remember it's only the community center portion
Right.
that's at the 53.
And that's sort of in the middle of the property. So it's significantly, downhill, if you will.
Right.
That property drops approximately 100 feet from Erie Station Middle Road to the lower end of the property.
And this is a bad question, but I got to ask it. Are you really going to plant all those trees that you have in your diagram? Probably not.
Yeah, probably so.
Really?
No, the point of this is we're not, I think in terms of density, as I understand the code, we could add a lot more apartments, a lot more units and things. That's not our purpose here. Our purpose is to really build a campus and a community where these pocket neighborhoods with the cottages and so on, it's where you'd really like to live. So it's creating a campus-like atmosphere.
Yeah.
So yeah, the landscaping is a significant part of the budget.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And how many employees do you anticipate employing in a organization like this?
I don't have the exact number of that. I said we're working out that business plan. There
Sure.
will be a marketing section that there will be administration. We'll have a director of the entire facility. We'll have a facilitator for I'll say like a concierge service, if you will, for the residents, so to help them navigate their way through healthcare systems as they need it. I just off the top of my head, I'm guessing in terms of employees, well, then there's kitchen and dining. So it could be 25 or 30. I'm guessing. I said we're working that out right now. The
Sure.
numbers.
And you said this is senior independent living,
Yes.
but you would be working with outside agencies. So would that be things like providing or working with agencies to come in and provide home health care and that sort of thing?
Yes, we're talking to some agencies about providing, physical therapy type services in the community center, in the wellness center. We've initiated conversations with University of Rochester, with the YMCA about partnering. We're not trying to build a vertical silo here. The idea is to partner with other agencies here in the community.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I pulled up my email just for people's edification. So the community center has a first floor elevation of 585 feet. The main roof line would be at 635 feet and the top of the cupola be at 643 feet. The elevation of the intersection itself is 648 feet. So all those would actually be below the grade of the intersection. And again, this is just internal discussion. We haven't put this on yet, but the thing I was looking at is like there would be a maximum top of roof at 640 feet, with the exception that the cupola, which could not be higher than the 648 foot elevation of the intersection. For the Villa 2B, which is the one that's closest to the intersection, it has a first floor elevation of 606 feet and a height of 30. So the top of the roof is at 636 feet. So again, that's still 12 feet below the level of the intersection. So in looking at that and doing that initial analysis, it looks like that 640 feet cap keeps everything underneath it. And the reason, of course, we do this is because if we give that special use permit for 53, if we don't put some restrictions on it, then, whether it's some future board, whatever, we don't want them to be able to run away with that, so to speak, because again, the original intent was to protect that view shed for the houses to the south. So. Any other questions from the town board before I throw it open to the public? Okay, do we have questions from the public?
Yes.
Yep, coming up. Why don't I ask you, Mr. Martin, could you sit at the table? That way you have that microphone there to answer, and that way the public can use the podium. Great, thank you.
Tyler Keller, 1063 Erie Station Road. I first off wanted to thank the Masons again for their transparency throughout this entire project. They've been really willing to work with the neighbors and make sure that the town and the neighbors are getting something that we want to look at for the rest of our lives. So I thank them for that. And I thank the town board for their consideration, especially you, Mr. Supervisor. You actually answered one of my questions I had. Just to clarify though, if you don't mind, when you're saying to have when you're basing your elevations, are you doing it off of a running pitch of the existing grade, or are you doing it off of just flat datum?
It's off the running pitch, but when you build a building, you set, in other words, the building doesn't follow the pitch, right? You pick that first floor elevation and that's where you set. So that's literally the elevation of the first floor. So again, going back to the apartment building and the clubhouse, the basement elevation, because it's a walkout in the back, is actually 12 feet lower. So there's a basement floor elevation of 573. And then if you look from there, it drops to 72. And I mean, it tails off a little bit, levels out for the parking lot, drops off after that. Again, going in the other direction, it starts at 585, but then goes uphill to the south. So, but you know, again, you build your buildings level. So they gave us the site plan, and it hasn't been improved internally, which is why we haven't shared it yet publicly. But they're going to get that finalized. That'll be out before we make a decision on this.
That's my next question. Thank you.
And then the second thing is they then gave us building elevations. So I just used the two pieces together and went through and did all the calculations. So.
Oh, the building elevations also be made public prior to the next?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can't guarantee next meeting, but I can guarantee that we won't vote on it until the public has had a chance to review them. So do you know when any chances to when those might be available to the public?
Well, we are submitting to the planning board on the 18th. And I suspect that we'll have some of those elevation renderings to include just for informational. So you would be able to do the same math.
Okay.
So as part of that submission, we'll make it available.
As well as the elevation map too?
Yes, so the site plans that we're submitting will be full site plan, utility, grading, details, notes, everything.
So those will be available. They'll be up if you go to the /projects website. It may take a day or two to get them up there, but once they're available up there, you know, like I said, once we have them, we'll work to get them up there and you'll be able to review them there.
Great. As Supervisor Schultz said, there was a lot of conversation back and forth, the two different meetings with the public, and we gave insight. Two questions off that. I have one thing, us neighbors were very excited to see, or hopeful for, I would say, would be sidewalks in the area. The site plan that was submitted with the special use permit doesn't show any. Is that in consideration or not anymore?
So we have sidewalks throughout the community. I don't believe there are any plans for sidewalks along Erie Station or Middle. So this is the first I'm hearing of any discussion.
So this is the first you've heard of. They did bring it up at a neighborhood meeting. I don't think there was much discussion about down Erie Station because they would essentially go to nowhere. But there was discussion about the possibility going up Middle Road.
Yeah, I know that would be something that would be.
And I think they were interested from the entrance, essentially something that connected from the intersection towards, you know, whether it goes to your entrance or whether, do you need it to, are you interested in it going all the way down or, you know, down Middle Road, or is this to connect to the path so that folks who live there can walk? You're building that nice pond in Memorial. I think the neighbors want to be able to walk that pond.
Correct, yeah. I mean, sidewalks in the facility are well and good, but if we can't get to them,
right,
we can't use them.
So, you know, whether that means it comes from the intersection down to your entrance on Middle Road, or if there's a shortcut down into the internal sidewalks, I think either of those solutions, do you agree either of those solutions would be fine?
I agree.
You know, again, at the neighborhood meeting, the Masons were specifically talking about that monument, and, you know, it'll be a nice place and the neighbors are welcome to come visit it. Their point was it's a little dangerous walking down that road right now.
Okay, I'll work out details with the applicant, and when we resubmit, those details will be added.
Great, thank you.
And then my final question is, you mentioned that the sewer system would be private. Do you just mean for now as put together for the community, or are you saying that you're going to cap the sewer system pretty much semi-permanently at the pump station?
So the pump station will be public. That's going to be owned by the town, but everything from there coming into the development is completely private.
Understood. Just want to clarify that.
What's the farthest south you're taking it that we might be able to have a public Y into it?
Well, that's where it gets complicated, because if you connect your public to our system can't remain private. So you would have to take dedication of it. But to answer your question, to the very close to the intersection off of Erie Station, where the internal intersection. So near the south end of the community.
So I think before the meetings, we'll reach out. On Tuesdays, we have an internal engineering meeting where in our sewer, the Commissioner of Public Works there. So we'll have a discussion about that. And then follow up with you to see what, whether that makes sense to do it as a dedicated sewer. So that there is the potential of,
sure,
continuing it further south, because certainly everybody who's on this side of the ridge to the south, it would all flow downhill to that.
So, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So how does a private sewer water system work on that kind of scale? I'm sorry.
You're fine. So it requires somebody with knowledge and experience and certification to own and maintain that, which is what the facilities department for the community will be in charge of. It gets complicated. You in New York State or anywhere in the country, you can't share private sanitary sewer between multiple properties. So perhaps either one main trunk through our development could be dedicated to the town, and that could be extended further south. And so that portion would be owned and maintained by the town of Henrietta. And then everything else would be privately owned and maintained, just like the drainage system. If something happens to it, the community is responsible for repairing it.
Most apartment buildings are that way, that the apartment, the whole sewer system inside the apartment is private. Give you another example, Locust Hill, their sewer system is all private. However, because the town of Pittsford was unwilling to let us connect to their sewer immediately adjacent, when we brought an apartment, we had to do the main trunk line through Locust Hill is public. All their stuff that feeds into it is still private. So
Okay, gotcha.
that's the second scenario that Mr. Martin was just talking about, that. So there's a couple different options that you can go with that route. It generally doesn't make sense to make the whole thing in an apartment complex public because of the issue of, okay, I've got clogged toilet, the response time. They want to have that responsivity to the neighbors, but and it also creates additional costs because now I have to have cleanouts anywhere any building comes in. There's a bunch of requirements where I transition from the private lateral to the public main. So we'd want to minimize that impact. So like I said, my thinking is along the lines that you were just saying, is we would pick one trunk that's a public trunk and everything else would be private. But we'll again, I want to have an internal discussion, and then we'll reach out to you to see if there's any way to make that work. Because I do think that, whether it gets hooked up now, just providing for that a point to hook up in the future, it's just, to me, a good idea. I refer to it as drag along infrastructure. It helps the neighbors in that regard. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep. We have another. The person standing up and back, were you waiting to speak? Yeah, come on up. And Ed, that desk microphone might, no, look to that one there. That might be easier to use than the leaning over to the handheld. Go ahead.
Bob Toby, 135 Glen Iris Drive. My family owns 1230 Erie Station Road and 40 acres around that. Just to the east of the property we're talking about. I got a couple concerns. Earlier you referred to the trail on the north side along the thruway going to a park. What kind of park? What kind of trail? What's the use for that? I've never heard about a park back there yet.
There isn't a park back there. There is a potential that the former golf course that currently is being used typically by people on dirt bikes and motorbikes, that we would make that a park with one of the things that we're a bit short on is parking access to the Lehigh Valley Trail. And so the idea is we would bring a road in there, put a parking lot on the west side of the trail. Because today we've got people parking on the road that goes down to the underpass, and we have people parking on Erie Station
Mhm.
Road. The idea is to try to get them off of there and into a parking space.
Okay, because we do have issues with four-wheelers. They're running up and down road. In fact, they're running on your property. And how you want to handle that, I don't know, but yeah, it's every summer it's an issue and it's already started. So that's my concern. If you have an open trail down there, you're just going to invite more problems. So you got how you're going to manage it.
Right. Well, and one of the things we're talking about as a possibility is, do we have a designated area with a road in so people aren't going up and down the trail to get there? But again, that's completely separate from this. We're just asking them to preserve that, but that would be a completely separate motion. It also is dependent on that land being donated to the town, which that's not the case yet, but.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah, but that would be a future, again, a future hearing. That's a separate decision. We just want to preserve the ability to get there if it happens. And we had proposed with the Masons that for the acreage that we're going to use for the road, we would give them then access a similar acreage, so that at the south edge of that parcel, which would give them direct access to the trail, so they could build their sidewalk out so that their residents could also easily get to the Lehigh Valley Trail with essentially without ever having to leave the property to get there. So we've talked about that, but again, that's a future subsequent. We're just trying to preserve the ability to do that in the event that it is available to us and we decide to do it.
And this is all primarily down in the north end.
It's all right along the thruway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The other question I have, that a lot of that field has been tiled, and that runs east to our property. And my father, a number of years ago, allowed the tiling to come and empty into the creek on the west side of the property. There again, with, knowing where the drainage, the tiling is, and there's springs up there. And you break the tiling, that becomes surface water. And that surface water all comes to the east. And I know where the tiles are. They are exposed on the creek side. Anybody wants to walk it with me, I can show them whatever, so you don't run into problems later down the road.
I think I might take you up on that offer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a question for you, because we've had this run in two different other developments. You don't have a retention pond that you like to keep full from those tiles, do you?
No.
Okay. We've had a case where there was somebody who had a retention pond. It was being filled by adjacent tiles. They broke those tiles. Now his pond is half
dried up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and this all runs into obviously, the Red Creek drainage.
Right.
And so.
The nice thing that with the way that pond is the stormwater pond is being designed, is that will create some detention. So during this surge from the storm, when it's raining, that will build up and discharge slower into the creek than currently happens today.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
This gentleman over here. Okay.
It's not working.
Oh, I see that. Hold on.
Yes. I didn't know who to text.
The new version is frozen. Where did Ann go?
Sam DeSalvo.
Oh, could you hold on one second, Sam? We got a
technical
we
issue
have a
here.
technical issue with
You're
our
not going to
virtual
hear me
screen.
anyway, right?
We can hear you,
We
but
can hear
anybody
you, but we
online.
want the online version to also. There we go.
Here we go. It's moving now, Becky.
Yep. I didn't even notice.
I texted Linda because I noticed her a couple minutes ago. and
Gotcha.
I didn't know who to text.
Thank you.
We're all set?
Yep.
Sam DeSalvo, 876 Middle Road. I am the corner house of Erie Station and Middle Road. There still is a little problem with the elevations, being that you had mentioned some of the elevations for the roof are going to be over 600 feet. Is that what you said?
Of elevation, yes.
So the peak of the roof is going to be 630 feet, I think you said?
Above ground, above sea level.
That's above sea level, yes.
Well, my
So the
living room
intersection
floor,
is at 648 and your house is significantly higher.
my living room floor is 673 and a half feet.
Right.
Okay, but you're talking 500 feet from me? And it's 640 feet?
630. So again, the tallest is 635. The cupola, that one little peak would be at
Okay, I'm not
643.
too worried about that.
Right.
How about the 3-story buildings around? What's the elevation of?
The highest of those is at 620 feet. The one that's closest to the intersection.
So at one time, we were supposed to get details about how the buildings would look from each of our properties.
And they are going to do that prior to, again, we've got, just so to be clear, we're going to hold the special use, or excuse me, we're going to hold the public hearing open. Although there's a possibility. Becky, while I'm talking, could you confirm when we did the declaration of intent to be lead agency?
Hey, Steve, this is Linda. Becky is not with us right this second, but she'll be back momentarily and I'll ask her that question.
Okay, yeah, I just want to, because I'm not positive we can rule next meeting either. Because I think it might only be, well, someone gave me a meeting date. It would only be 28 days from that meeting, but I swear we were 2 meetings ago that we did the declare intent.
It's in our board packet, April 27th.
It was April 27th. Yeah, so we will not be able to make a determination at the next meeting. It will actually have to be 2 meetings out. That I don't know why they don't switch it from 30 days to 28 days to accommodate for that, but that's unfortunately the way the law is written. So there will be plenty of time to get.
I still
that.
have a
You
question
should.
about that, okay?
Sure.
Also.
So I mean,
believe-
just to be clear, you'd be looking, you said 678 is your
673 and a half feet.
673. So you'd be.
That's my living room floor.
You'd be looking down 50 feet downward to the rooftop.
Yeah, but you're talking 500 feet away from me.
Right, but it's still down, which if you take that
30
trajectory
feet
down,
down.
you're probably hitting the throughway.
I think there could be a problem with that. Also, I think in our last meeting, you had a discussion with the Masons about senior citizens development. I see here it says a Masonic care community. Doesn't say anything about senior citizens there.
The special use permit will only be for senior living.
Have we assigned an age to that?
That is in our code. They can set it higher. They cannot set it lower.
Do you know what the code says?
I want to say it's 55, but I'd have to look it up.
55 doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
We got 40-year-olds moving in
It's
there.
not 40. I'm pretty sure the code, Don, could you check that? Yeah, he'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure it's 55. So they could set it higher if they want. They just couldn't go lower than that.
Is there
But
any-
the special, just to be clear, an apartment complex is not an allowed use. Only a senior apartment complex is an allowed use. We couldn't grant a special use permit for an apartment complex. It would require a rezone or a use variance. So this is for senior. And again, they haven't decided what their definition is going to be, but it can't be any younger than what the limit is in the zoning code.
And I know we're talking about a complex with roughly 200 units in it. Under any conditions would could they be expanded later on?
It depends how we write the special use permit. If the special use permit says for 200 units, then no. Well, I say no, it wouldn't be allowed under this special use permit. They would have to come in and get a new special use permit from a new board. We can't control what a future town board could do. A future town board could rezone it to R215. But, you know, for this use, this approval, this analysis, I expect to write the special use permit approval for 200 units.
Because right now, the density, you had mentioned a long time ago when I met with you, when I first got word that when I saw DDS surveying the lots, I made an appointment with Steve to see what's going on. You showed me on the internet, you showed me buildings that they've built around the area, and you had mentioned that it's roughly 30% buildings and 70% park-like settings. Is that still true as to, is that the,
I don't remember if it's
the model
exactly
that
that
they're
number,
going by?
but what we will get the open space. They will be doing an open space calculation if they haven't done one already. And do you know what the acreage is?
We have 89 acres, but in terms of percentage, I wouldn't characterize it as 30%. I just visually, it seems much higher than that, but we're well within whatever the code allows.
so the steeple in it kind of threw me for a loop before. I didn't realize that that was in the plans to begin with. So,
Okay.
but it
I
is
don't know
kind
that
of
they
a-
were that far along on the plans to have included that. You know, again, they had some rough concepts and they've since been architecturally fleshing those out.
the area where the steeple is going to be, the ground that it's going to be built on, do you know the elevation there?
I do. It is 585. That's the first floor. So the back is again 12 feet lower. And so the main building roof line would be at 635 feet. And again, the cupola would be at 643 feet, which is again, still lower than the elevation of the intersection.
I would just like to be made aware of, as soon as the town gets the elevation drawings and everything else done, you know, I'd like to be able to get them if I can. I
Sure.
don't know.
And I may reach out to you to do one version that has the top of the roof line. It's not, so one of the confusing things in town code, when it's a peaked roof, the top isn't the top of the roof. It's some fraction of the way in there. I'll want to actually use the peak because that's what most people understand. So in other words, like the 35-foot limit, the peak can actually be a little bit above that, but they've got the elevations. They've got, so I essentially set my PDF to scale. Someone came in, he's measuring his screen. Yeah, well, I had set it so that it was equivalent to 60 scale. And I was actually measuring the stuff on there to make sure everything was, I was using the right numbers. And so, like I said, what we'll do is on the plan, we'll have them put what the elevation of the, so for the roofs, it's going to be the roof main line, and then we'll just have one additional notation for the cupola.
The 3-story buildings are basically around that building there, aren't they?
Correct.
What is the top of the 3-story buildings?
That's, I gave you that one.
Did you?
So again, well, no, it depends. So that one is 620 is the top of the 3-story. The main roof for the For the community center is much taller because it's got indoor, I assume I don't know if it's gonna have basketball courts, but basically it's a high vaulted ceiling, right? So that's the one that needs the exception for the 53 foot. But the apartment building is the 35 foot. Now, just to be clear, that's 35 on the 2-story side, and it's 48 on the 3-story side, but that's considered essentially a walkout basement. So when you measure it from a height, although again, this is going to have a variance for height anyways, but that's why this gets back to why I want to set a maximum height, because I didn't want them to take the height variance and apply it to a building at the top. Again, I don't think these guys would. But one of the things you got to remember when you're doing these special use permits, they stay with the property. So if the Masons ever sell this to someone else down the road, we don't want them to come back and be able to say, well, we've got a special use permit to build a 50-foot tall building right here at the corner. So that's why we're putting this kind of cap on it. It's not normal. In fact, we were having a discussion as to how we could do this, and I came up with the idea of the maximum roof elevation. So, okay.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you. Yep. Actually, you haven't been up for this one. Go ahead. Yep. I was gonna say before I have you come back up, but then I realized you spoke on the last one.
Yeah, Rich Road, 1026 Middle Road. What I haven't heard from the developers yet is why do you want to change the elevation from 35 to 53 feet?
It's the community center.
Right. Why do you want that?
Well, at the risk of speaking for Mike's, by all means, if you want to chime in, I would say that it's one of the amenities that they want to offer to the Masonic care community that is their business, so they realize what the residents desire. So this meets that desire. And it's, to be frank, it's quite within scale of what developments of this sort of thing are. So it's kind of, and I think at the risk of also speaking for the town, it's normal for the scale, but it gives the town the opportunity to ask more pointed questions. And to Supervisor Schultz's credit, he recognizes the challenges with elevations and that sort of thing. So setting the cap is very insightful to do that.
I understand. Excuse me. I understand that, and I appreciate it. When this was presented at the first public hearing, I think it was 35 feet. Why do you want 53? What are you adding? Why?
Well, I don't think anything got added. I would say that, what's going inside of that building warrants the height, and some of it has to do also with the way that the definition is done. So it's from the grade up to that point. And again, just this size of building to offer those amenities requires the height. Mike, is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think, we're looking for more of an atrium type look, so.
Hold on a second. Could you either bring the handhelds or come on up to the podium? Sorry about that.
Sorry. So with the community center, I think there's a number of areas in the entrance where we want more of an atrium type look that more akin to the George Eastman House type of structure. So it makes it I think a more grand community center. So we've been working with the architects at SFCS, and that's the plans that they've come up with, and it looks to be quite an attractive thing for the community.
Thank you.
Okay, so it wasn't a change in you're adding more to the facility. It's engineering or architectural.
Exactly.
Okay, so why wasn't that presented that way the first time you guys came here and you said, okay, 35 feet? Because a lot of us in the audience said, okay, 35 feet, we can live with that.
And to be clear, all the living space is 35 feet.
The community center, I'm just trying to understand why it changed.
Hold on. You can't talk from the audience. Again, if you want to come up, you can grab a microphone and speak.
Okay, if Tyler's going to explain that.
Okay.
And then for the town board, You came in here with a special use permit to change it to 53 feet. Why is the cupola not included in that? Why is that a kind of a standalone?
Because that's the way it's defined. Steeples aren't included, cupolas aren't included.
Could it be written in there? Okay, the 53
I am
feet.
going to put a maximum height on the cupola,
Okay, thank you.
but it's not considered part of the roof measurement. That's what I was explaining. If for a peaked roof, the roof measurement doesn't even include the peak. It's,
I saw that on the
Yeah.
plans also. Yep.
yep. Go ahead, Tyler, you wanted to address.
Tyler Keller, 1063 Erie Station. Just, I do this every day for a living, and even I miss that too. And I will be the first one to admit that I had the same, I was all fired up too when I saw this. But I went back to my notes from the previous meeting you're talking about, and they did present it as being a much larger building for the community center. It just wasn't denoted that way at the time.
So they didn't have a number
Nothing-
attached to it is the issue.
So essentially nothing changed.
All right.
Frozen again. It froze again.
Becky, we froze again.
I was just speaking with somebody about that. I'll be right in.
I'll let her do it. We should have her show Craig or Don what needs to be done. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're having a lot of difficulty.
Yeah, this is technical difficulties night.
We usually don't have this many, do we?
I'm wondering if at some point we need to reboot that machine.
Here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. Of course you did it too, so. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
Ann Stevens, 6373 East River Road. Thank you Supervisor Schultz and members of the town board for your service. I love senior communities. I volunteer at senior communities. I think it's great that it's going in Henrietta, but I'm concerned with the precedent of having a 5-story building when only 3 stories are allowed by town code.
To be clear, it's not a 5-story building.
Well, it's 52 feet, so I'm counting 10 feet per story, generally speaking, but so 52, 53 feet. That's what I meant. I don't know, but I don't think the Delphi building is even that large. It's nestled nicely. If it is, it's nestled into the hillside, so no one notices it. This is a very prominent building that will be noticed by everyone that drives down Middle Road. I don't think we should be so completely focused on the sight line from Erie Station because Middle Road is a very long road. People drive down it all the time. I drive it every day. Having an enormous building on that lot is completely uncomplimentary to any of the neighborhoods that are in the area. I think RIT might have some buildings that are this high,
Way
but
higher.
that's miles and miles away. It's not West Henrietta in this neighborhood. I did see that the DDS schematic states that the steeple height is 69 feet above grade, but on page 2 of your special use application, you state that the steeple is 75 feet from ground elevation. That's 6 feet difference. And so I'm wondering which is the correct number.
Well, I can't tell you sitting here at this moment, but these are some of the elevations that Supervisor Schultz has asked us to include in the plans that
Yeah,
we
so I'm
submit.
just looking at the application
And-
versus your,
It might be whether it's looking at it from the which side of the building it's on. In measuring on the elevation, let's see, the cupola, 643, 585. So I have it, it's about 58 feet over the, I don't know if there's a little spire. If there's a little spire, I didn't include that. That's just the gut of the cupola roof, but we'll get that
okay.
finalized.
It's just that in the application, it had 2 different figures, so.
So most likely, again, those plans have been changing.
Mhm.
So that was probably, one was the number at the time it was submitted. And, you know, again, if any, as I've explained before, any system of this level of complexity is going to go through a number of revisions. So
Sure. Sure. I'm kind of a detail person, so that needs to get.
I will note this is not a precedence in that we've granted many variances to height. As far as RIT goes, there is a 12-story building, a 9-story, an 8-story, 6 different 7-story buildings. Over at just up the road, the U of R was approved for a 6-story building. There've been a number of them, even in residential areas. So it's not
In this neighborhood?
in that neighborhood, no. However, again, you got the houses up on the hill, they're up higher, they're in full view of Middle Road too.
But they're
I don't,
2 and 3-story houses.
I understand,
So.
but this
it's
is again, it's sitting down in, going back to it's nestled down in the hill. I will look up what the elevation is or what the height is for the former Delphi building. I don't know what that one is,
Okay.
but that is, you can.
I'm just
it's
saying,
clearly in the
as you
neighborhood. What
drive
was that?
down Middle.
I know it's Rochester Regional. I'm just saying
Yeah, I'm just
she had mentioned
still
Delphi.
calling it
I
Delphi.
realized I had to put former in front of it.
But I do agree with you that I'm not convinced of the necessity of having the 52-foot high building. It
Okay.
does hearken to the Masonic Temple. That's a grand building. They always are wonderfully grand buildings. But in terms of what the use is, I think that there are extremely talented engineers involved here that can come up with a solution that will solve these problems, because that's your job, to be creative and work within town code.
And just to be clear, they are working within town code. In town code, it does allow for it to go above 35 feet with a special
with a
use
special
permit.
use permit.
So
Okay.
just to be clear,
Then
I appreciate your
if-
input. I'm just
yeah.
making it clear they're not in violation of town code.
Okay.
So, but
right.
yes, it does require a special use permit, and obviously your input and the other neighbors' inputs will be something this town board will take into account when we're looking at
Okay.
this.
Well, thank you for listening.
You bet. Thank you.
So when we look to vote on this, will we be able to write the resolution in such a way that it's tied to just that one building and it cannot be applied to any other building that's there?
We can do that. Yep. And again, we can specify the actual maximum so it can't essentially creep up the hill.
Yeah.
Other questions?
So Supervisor, one of the questions that occurred to me as we're talking about this project is the traffic on Middle Road and Erie Station. I know we haven't done the seeker as yet, but that particular intersection on Middle and Erie is, well, it's terrifying to go through the intersection as it is. So is there any thought given to signal or anything along those lines?
So I think there's are you guys doing a traffic study?
One's already been done and submitted to the county DOT, and no improvements were required for any of the area roads whatsoever. So much so that they actually want us to only do one entrance for this entire development.
Right.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, it surprised me too. but-
And you, being you're a member of the planning board, that second entrance, if there's an accident in front of the first entrance and there's a fire or an emergency, that place is shut down.
Right.
Believe me, we've had these conversations at very raised voices in our office. We
Okay.
were shocked, to be honest.
I
Yeah.
can't believe it.
But, you know, one of the other things I will note, in looking at that intersection, one of the things we also asked is, you know, that we wanted to set aside, and they've got that in terms of, you know, sometime down the road, I don't know it, as they reevaluate that, I'm not sure a light is the right solution. I will say that the two houses closest to that intersection probably would very much not like a light, because of the impact on their view. But one of the things we look at is at that location, and there's kind of a notch out of the corner of that parcel as well as the other adjacent. There's actually potentially big enough if they wanted to turn it into a traffic circle. I don't know that that's the right solution either, but the point is we want to preserve the ability to make that decision if it turns out to be there. I suspect the majority of the traffic will be exiting out either Middle Road turning right or Erie Station turning left. Just because when you get over to West Henrietta today, there isn't a whole lot over there other than schools, which I don't think any of the seniors are going to be going to school there. So now if you know, a restaurant ever, you know, there is the pizza corner. If another restaurant comes into the four corners over there, that might change, but I see the bigger impacts being at Middle and Lehigh Station, which I know the state is currently working on that from a pedestrian crossing standpoint, in just improving the overall intersection. And then when you get out towards there's already a light at the intersection of Erie Station and East Henrietta. So
with the Monroe County DOT, which exit were they suggesting that you eliminate? The Erie Station one?
They said to gate the Erie Station entrance.
So the Middle Road, I mean, that's a pretty good straightaway there. It probably gives a pretty clean line of sight in either direction. But I avoid traveling that section of Erie Station. Is that on a hill there or?
It's dropping from west to east.
Okay.
But I don't know that that's something I would want to look at. I don't think there is a crown, which is what causes a sight issue. So if it's a steady decline, it's essentially straight.
Yes.
Or if it's got a
sag vertical curve,
right, a concave curve to it. But I don't remember. I was paying attention to the other day, and I seem to remember that you actually had good sight lines in both directions. The place where the sight lines are not good is the intersection.
Right
itself.
at the intersection, right?
So unfortunately, they followed the old farm roads, which tended to stay up on the hills and on the ridges because that's where it was dry and you didn't get your wagons stuck in the mud. So that was great for horses and wagons, but when you get to people flying down in their automobile, it creates some issues.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Ultimately, it will be the Monroe County, since both roads are county roads, it's Monroe County DOT who makes the ultimate traffic decision. But like I said, I think our fire marshal is going to push back mightily. This, Rick and I don't know if there's others who also agree on the board, will be pushing back as well, because I just think it's a mistake to have only
No,
one entrance.
I think for the size of the facility that you're looking at, 2 entrances only makes sense.
I think part of it just comes in that they try to minimize the number of curb cuts onto their county roads is what it really comes down to. So, okay, if you could move back over, we've got a couple, I saw a couple hands go up. Go ahead.
Sam DeSalvo, 876 Middle Road, no roundabout.
Why is that?
No roundabout.
Why is that? Would you rather have a traffic light if they decide it needs to be a controlled intersection?
I think I'd rather see a traffic light than a roundabout.
Okay.
Just look at, we're still pretty rural.
No, I
You know what I
understand.
mean? A roundabout would be, and my wife would make me move. So,
Ultimately, it would be the county's decision anyway, so. Like I said, I like to preserve options. Mr. Marshall, you want to talk?
Yeah, just to mention about the 2 different exit, it really is it's our plan to have the 2 different entrances. It makes sense from fire, from safety. We would think most of the service vehicles would be coming in from Erie Station. The main entrance is the way we're designing it is off Middle Road. We don't want all that traffic going in the main entrance. So it's completely in our plans to have these 2 entrances.
Yeah, if we only had the one entrance, you'd be forcing a whole lot more traffic through that Middle Road Erie Station entrance. Because if I wanted to go out to East River or East Henrietta Road, I'd have to come out middle, go up and turn left. So it makes no sense. It would reduce the amount of traffic in that, I'll call it problem intersection. And the reason it's a problem, being perfectly honest, again, it doesn't have the greatest sight lines. The bigger problem is the drivers.
Yes.
Drivers have a tendency to think that they're stoptionals. So. Any other questions, comments? Becky, do we have anything online? Craig, go ahead and come on up.
We do not have anything online.
Good evening, Craig Eckert, Deputy Town Supervisor. 2 comments. We know we've seen some comments already from County DOT on already redoing Middle Road. I believe we've even shared those with DDS. We've been in communication with them. County already has some plan to enhance Middle Road in this section. Don't know what stage they are yet. They're certainly not widening it any further, but just some improvements, upgrades, better shoulders and such.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're improving the shoulders, correct? Yeah.
Right. I don't think they're really widening the road yet, but I haven't seen the plan. It might be, a half a foot of a travel lane, but other than that, I haven't seen anything else. And yes, the fire code would never, just like in Ward Hill, would never allow one entrance for these amount of units. Fire code for the state would override.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Anything else? Do you want to close, Don, because we're going to essentially skip a meeting? Should I close out and we'll re-advertise? Okay, go ahead. Did you want to say anything else before I close the public?
No, I was just going to ask you if you wanted us to attend the next meeting, or were you just going to push that through?
2
to the next
meetings.
one?
We, again, in next meeting, you're unfortunately 2 days short.
Understood.
So, okay, hearing no further discussion, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit applications numbers 2022-015 and 018 for the Masonic Care Community. Again, noting that we will reopen the public hearing in 2 weeks, or excuse me, 2 meetings, which is 4 weeks. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-016 Splash Car Wash, 935 Jefferson Road, to demolish an existing restaurant building and construct and operate a vehicle wash facilities. We have a representative.
Hello and good evening again. Ed Martin with DDS. Here tonight representing the application. Also in attendance tonight is Jeff, and I'm blanking on your last name right now. Jeff Arnold, who is the developer. And just a little bit of background, the site is at the southeast corner of Jefferson Road and Clay Road. Most recently was Bar Louie, and before that it was the most beloved restaurant my kids have ever gone to, Bugaboo Creek. So you're familiar with the site. Having done numerous car washes for several developers all over upstate New York, I can tell you that Jeff and Dave with Splash Car Wash know this business better than anybody I've ever met. And odds are, any questions about the operation, I'm going to invite him to answer those. We have submitted a concept to the town, and I understand that the car wash use requires a special use permit. Point of interest that we are eliminating the right in off of Jefferson Road. So there will be a right out only from the site, and entrance to the site will occur at the existing curb cut well south on Clay. We have had preliminary discussions with state DOT, and they do not anticipate requesting an impact statement of any kind, including traffic counts or anything like that. They view this as a reduced use compared to either Bar Louie or Bugaboo Creek. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So while I'll note that he may be an expert in this field in car wash and all that, he apparently doesn't know more than the people in public or in social media, because we had a lot of comments about how crazy it is. Great, we need another car wash. Great, we're getting rid of a restaurant. So, you know, take that as you will. In looking at this, just so a couple comments, we did receive word back today. Originally, we weren't going to rule on this today, and if the town board hasn't had a chance to review this enough, because of that, we can table it if you desire. But in looking at it, we did hear back from the New York State DOT this afternoon. They'd first said that they had no issue eliminating the right in, which I didn't think they would. But they then said that they did write and say that they did not see this. They did not have a need for a traffic study. They did not consider this to be an impact any greater than the prior use. So they had zero traffic concerns, because that was one of the things being brought up online is this going to cause problems for the traffic on Jefferson Road? And again, ultimately, that's the New York State DOT's decision, not ours. In their opinion, it's not an issue. And I can't say I disagree with them. So I don't have a whole lot of questions, but I also got to ask them previously. So I will open it now to questions from the town board.
What makes Splash Car Wash different than other car washes?
I think that's your cue, Jeff.
If you don't mind, I'd like to.
Yep, absolutely. When you're off the microphone, feel free.
My name is Jeff Arnold with Clifton Land Company, Splash Car Washes. We own and operate approximately 50 locations throughout the Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, Connecticut, Vermont market, basically. The Splash is kind of a growing car wash. We were originally Classy Chassis Car Wash. We had about 25 locations in the greater Rochester area. We formed a relationship with Splash Car Wash, renaming them all and growing our entity forward. We, in addition to what we've been known as Classy Chassis Car Washes, we purchased the Buckman sites, the Melco site over in Penfield, which increased our locations in the greater Rochester area to about 25 at the time. We're developing several new sites between Syracuse and Buffalo, downstate and up to Watertown. I don't know if I wouldn't say a difference. I think obviously every market's a competitive market. We want to give a commitment to the customers as far as service. It's an express tunnel wash, quick, easy in and out, free state-of-the-art vacuum systems, state-of-the-art wash equipment. Our philosophy is simply you get a great wash, quick, easy in and out, and you're going to get a great free vacuum system. Obviously, there's one of the largest car washes in the United States is located just down the road. It's not I guess, which is one's better. I would say it's apples and oranges, maybe. I'm fond of our locations. Our newest one that just opened is in Geneva, where the old Ponderosa restaurant was. We have one going up in Clay where another restaurant was, one in Oswego, one up in Luray, and some in the Buffalo area and some others in the Rochester area. But our model is a little bit different. We don't have oil changes. We don't have dollop services or several other services. It's an express model wash-in. A good portion of our customers are membership based. So as we grow, somebody with a membership that's paying, let's say $20 a month, they can come in and wash their car at any of the greater Rochester locations. If they're in Buffalo, they can wash. If they're in Connecticut, they can wash. Syracuse, they can wash. They want to vacuum. They want to receive, again, that simple, what they're there for, to get a clean car, in and out service.
You have about 50 parking spaces there on that site, shown on a diagram. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to pave that whole area except the tunnel?
I think we're
where-
actually reducing the hard space there. We prefer concrete just because we don't like yeah, it'll be a hard type service. So.
Yeah, so
just-
because there's the current parking lot and building that's there.
Yeah.
That impervious surface was larger than the proposed impervious surface, if I remember correctly. Do you have that calculation by any chance, Ed?
Not at my fingertips, no.
But yeah, so
It is less so. If I can speak on that, so I'd like to clarify that is, if anybody's been to our Geneva site, obviously the community of Geneva is a fraction of the size of Henrietta. There we have 23 vacuum spaces. These are very expensive. These are the most state-of-the-art vacuum systems on the market. They run a silent system, running a turbine vacuum, one motor per X amount of vacuum spaces. They run a silencer on them. And the draw to all the vacuum stanchions is to that one motor, one suction center, which again is silent, opposed to the old vacuums at the car washes that clicked on and you had 4 or 5 running and it was loud and noisy. The goal is to make sure we never have an issue. Likely we'll never have anywhere close to 40 people vacuuming. There'll be 2 or 3 apart, but the goal is never to have a situation where somebody has to wait for a vacuum.
So the analogy I had for those vacuums when we were talking, it's sort of like if you have, a whole house vacuum system.
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
thing is in your basement, and all you're hearing is the flow of the air, not the whine of the motor.
Mhm.
And you said you're going to have 23 of these stations?
No, I said our Geneva location has 23. The Henrietta location, we're proposing approximately 40.
40? So I do Royal Car Wash, which is right down the street.
Shame on you.
It's convenient. I'm in and out in 5 minutes. That's why I was asking what you were offering differently. But I do know one of the things they do not have, and one of my pet peeves is no vacuum stations. So I have a tendency when I'm be bopping around town, I'll stop at one that has a vacuum station and use it.
We had initially looked at that a lot years ago before it was ever developed, and we passed on it because it just wasn't big enough.
Right.
For us. It didn't allow us to build our model.
How many vehicles do you anticipate that can queue up in the entrance before the tunnel?
In excess of 35. Do you have the exact number?
Not.
It's in excess of 35. We're a little bit different than, again, the larger one around the corner. Our customers are pretty similar to coming into a Royal Car Wash. You're kind of used to, you see a line, you see 10, 15. You typically go on by and especially if you're a member, you come back when it's a little bit slower, right? Most of our customers want to be in and out in 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. There's always those 4 or 5 banner days a year, the days in February where the sun shines, the roads dry out, and every car wash is busy, no matter if it's a self-serve, hand wand bay, in-bay automatic washes or whatever. Everything's busy. And those are days, but it's a fully manned operation. I can't recall, other than our Watertown location, which only has stacking for about maybe 15 cars, that we've ever had any type of possibility of getting a car stacked out onto the road. This site's a big site. It affords us a lot of stacking.
Yeah.
Plus there's 3 lanes to wait.
Yeah.
And to get them through, to get them processed through.
Mhm.
The Royal Car Wash was sold
Yes, it was.
to Go Car Wash now.
I know, but I just, that's what I,
Oh, okay.
that's what I call it.
I belong to that
It's
too, but I'll,
It's on my tag on my windshield.
Well, hopefully we can earn you as a splash customer
So
someday.
is this going to allow, is this only going to be for memberships or it's going to allow one-time use?
One-time use. No, we, absolutely.
And the exit out onto Jefferson Road, that's a right turn only. If individuals want to turn left, they would exit back out onto Clay Road.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, we're trying to reduce it. We don't have a problem with the side entrance. We just as soon not create any traffic type hazards. And it's just, to us, it seems like a better fit to eliminate some driveways and just clean that whole situation up.
Yeah.
good.
Any other questions from the board?
Another empty building.
Thank
Any
you.
questions from the public? Anything online? So while we've not had the short form, we have two of them tonight. So this is another short form. Because again, from an impact standpoint, it's minimal impact. Actually, I should be careful. I don't know if they might have done a full, it really only needs a short form, but I don't remember what was.
No, they did a short form.
They did a short form,
They
okay.
did a short form, but there was something in the email regarding moving forward with a seeker. I'm not entirely sure.
We had a resolute, because again, because they are knocking down and rebuilding, it does require a what is it, unlisted action? I always get my terms mixed up.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an unlisted action, so it doesn't require a coordinated view, doesn't require the 30 days wait. We weren't originally going to act tonight because we hadn't heard back from the state DOT, but like I said, they came in this afternoon. So rather than push them off 2 weeks, I don't have a problem with, like I said, when I look at this, I don't see it as being any more impactful than a restaurant. I'm glad to see that, we don't have an empty building sitting around.
That's the way I feel.
Online people were saying, I can't believe it's a restaurant. I won't lie. I'm surprised that another restaurant operator didn't come in for that position because of its location next to the hotel. But with that said, there's also a number of restaurants going in across the street. So there will be a bunch in the area still. Ultimately, it's not us to determine what developers want to build as long as it's within the confines of zoning code. So, excuse me, like I said, based off what the New York State DOT wrote back, I'm comfortable with issuing the negative deck now, but that's up.
I'm just thrilled to see that building, something going in there that has some, it's going to stay, that's not going to be closed in a little bit.
Yeah, has been a rotation of restaurants that have attempted
Ever
to
since the
start there.
moose left, it hasn't been any good.
Mhm.
Well, see, I go all the way back to Coco's Carousel, so, Okay, so there is a resolution for this one.
Bruce?
Because it's added at the very end of the agenda, because again, it came in after the agenda had already gone out. So if you go to the only, let me see who's,
I'm not sure there is.
We didn't, no names are listed.
okay. So it's not in that packet. Is it separate, Becky?
It's here, it's in the packet, it's first.
Oh, I see it.
It's the first one, okay.
Mhm. Becky put it out of.
Out of order,
Yeah, it's
gotcha.
out of order.
Yeah,
which-
so, okay.
So that we could read it right after the hearing.
Well, I'll put it forth and one of you can decide to second it.
Do we need to close the public hearing first?
Yeah, that's a good point. So hearing no further input, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-16 Splash Car Wash. Okay. Fellow board members, I have resolution 10-184, 2022 to issue a negative declaration and approve special use permit application number 2022-16 for Splash Car Wash for a new car wash facility at 935 Jefferson Road.
Second.
I got it off just in time because my machine's apparently needs a charger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. Do you have an idea when you're going to get started?
Once we get to a couple more stages here, he's ready to go tomorrow like that.
So for the record, he said he's ready to go tomorrow, we think. So the obviously site plan, other stuff you have to get that approval, building permit first, but you could probably, if you want to get a head start, go and get your demolition permit and get started. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing it here.
Look forward to
Thank you.
checking it out.
Thank you very much.
Ready? And finally, we have special use permit application number 2022-017. Namaste Indian Grill, 3675 West Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant serving alcohol with dine-in and takeout meal service. So if I understand correctly, this is the Namaste grocery store that used to be the old Hostess Wonder Bread facility?
Yes.
And you've basically added restaurant service?
Restaurant service
Yep.
there, yep.
So introduce yourselves, tell us a little about what you're looking to do.
So my name is Gurdeep Singh. This is my father, Gurpal Singh. I'm here representing him. Basically, we have our restaurant already up and running right now inside the Namaste Cash and Carry on 3675 West Henrietta Road. Basically, what he's looking to do is add in alcoholic drinks and stuff, being able to sell them, and beers, wines and stuff. Also in this restaurant itself and as takeout as well.
Will there be any outdoor seating?
No.
Okay. And is it 24-hour operation?
No, it's open from 11 a.m. to around 9 p.m.
Okay. I'm just going down the other, I
Yeah.
want to make sure we hit all the categories that you need for the restaurant. So it's dine-in, takeout, and alcohol sold.
Yes.
And this is actually located inside
the
portion of the store.
Yes.
Okay. Questions?
So this was originally open as a grocery and now you're expanding it.
So
to-
it was opened up as a grocery and a restaurant,
Okay.
both combined, and it's under Namaste, same name.
Mhm.
But the restaurant was up and coming slowly, but since we have picked up, they want to add the beers and wines and alcoholic into the restaurant now as well.
Okay. And you have a dine-in section?
Yes.
About how many seats inside do
I'm
you
gonna
have?
say around 30 people or so.
30?
30,
Okay.
yeah, it's a small little space in the back.
Great. Thank you.
Is the alcohol that you're going to be serving there, is it going to go in line with the food or is it just going to be?
Pretty much out there, if they want to purchase beers and stuff, but we're gonna be mostly dining, but they can also do take out like other online services like the Grubhub and Uber and stuff like that.
When did you open? How long have you been in operation now?
2019, like in July of 1.5 years.
Oh,
But yeah, so
okay.
it's pretty recent.
Mm-hmm.
But we did have another grocery store down the road from there. It was also called Namaste, but we just purchased a building and finally moved into a bigger facility now.
And this was one that I was very happy about because that former Hostess Wonder Bread site had become a bit of a blight.
Yeah.
It was one of those problems of you had an owner who lived out of state and had unrealistic expectations for what the value of his property was. So was very glad when these guys came in, cleaned, they did a wonderful job cleaning it up. It looks so much nicer than it used to.
It really does.
So.
It really does.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Is there anybody from the public?
I should just have one more question as
Yep.
well. So the liquor license, since they have two portions, but under the same name, do you need two? I don't know what like the application and stuff says that they put in, but is it for the grocery store and the restaurant? Or is it just for the restaurant? Yeah, I know. That's what I'm asking.
I don't know. So again, liquor license, we're not part of that, other
Okay.
than typically if they often require you to have a statement from the town saying that that is an allowed use.
Okay.
So once this, assuming we issue the special use permit, you could then contact me and we could generate such a letter. But I don't know beyond that.
All right. That's fine. That's fine.
Like I said, I know that liquor licenses are tied to a premises.
Mhm.
I just don't know whether you need a separate one for the restaurant versus the bar.
Okay.
I think we can say the same thing that we did for the other special use
Correct.
permit to be sold.
Yep. Any other questions, comments? So I'm going to just put forth, I'm going to essentially craft the approval on the fly, since this one does not require any seeker. Why don't I do this first? See, learning. Hearing no further comments, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-017 for Namaste Indian Grill. Fellow board members. Totally lost my track. I'm making a,
Approval.
I propose that that's what the approvals were.
Mhm.
This has been going on a little bit. Fellow board members, I propose that we approve special use permit application number 2022-017, Namaste Indian Grill, 3675 West Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant that includes dine-in and takeout meal service with alcohol being sold.
Second.
Any further discussion? Can't think of any restrictions that need to be on here that. Okay. Hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, and like I said, thank you for removing one of the blights from our town.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
And I'm going to suggest, do we take a short bio break?
I think it's a great idea.
And that will also allow me to get a charter, so I'll be able to read my resolutions. So we'll reconvene in a little over 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
My brain was getting sick.
Tomorrow, maybe at 7:11, or at it's not 7:11. Whatever is it, okay, I'll meet you at 5:30.
Yeah, I'll drive from there.
Okay, whatever is good with me. I have a 2 o'clock appointment and then I'm done after that, so I'll make sure I'm there at 5:30. Craig, did you hear back from your friend? Did you hear back from your friend at RG&E?
Well, I did, but I've got him dealing with our shelter drainage issue at the moment. So he
I'm
was,
sorry.
he's dealing with our shelter drainage issue at the moment. So he was, I had him backed up on something else.
No, that's fine, that's fine. I was just curious if you found anything out.
Yeah, I reached out, he just hasn't had a chance to respond.
Okay. I just don't even know who I would talk to in reference to that. We have a map here, but I think it's what, of the sewer lines?
Right, yeah, we don't
Okay.
keep the gas.
Okay,
I mean, it's showing that it's in a serviced area,
right,
but it doesn't give a specific.
right. Yeah, and unfortunately, I need to have specifics. I don't want to
Well,
say,
if it's on the other side of the road or your side of the road.
right, right.
The other side of the road doesn't help you a whole lot.
No, it does not.
No.
Not unless we want to dig a hole in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I can arrange that.
I'm sure you could. So Joe, my nephew made, he's on the tennis team in Geneva. He plays varsity. And he made, I don't know, is it sectionals or something, but he said it's going to be, where did he tell me it was going to be? Webster? No. He just said he doesn't think he plays Rush Henrietta.
No, we hosted the Class A today.
You do just the girls or do you do the guys too? You do boys only, okay. You do the women's, the women's spot. Okay. Yeah, so my sister was telling me on Sunday that he made, is it sectionals or something? I don't know what, and he's only 15. So, is he seeing good players?
Geneva has, that was the first thing, Fishback, Ryan Fishback.
Okay,
He's legendary.
is he?
One of the best high school athletes.
Well, it's funny because he's a really good hockey player and he was a really good baseball player. And my sister just was trying to keep him busy one summer and had him take tennis. And he's really good at tennis.
Yeah, my college provider, high school and junior college hockey players. It's a lot of, quick
Yeah,
skating.
a lot of the quick, well, and a lot of the quick feet work too, except he doesn't have skates on the bottom of his feet. Both her boys had skates on before they were walking. You know, they would literally put skates on, they'd walk around the house and around the yard and whatever. So, yeah, I can remember watching him skate and I mean, he was up before he fell. You know, they're just so quick, but yeah. So I said to my sister, I'd love to go watch him, but I can't remember where she said he had to go. Yeah, I just don't remember. Actually, I was thinking possibly it was at Aquinas. I'm almost thinking it was at Aquinas. And I actually think it's this week. Is it this weekend?
Yeah, we started today, we're going today, tomorrow, Friday.
Okay, yeah. And because she was telling us and I was like, I don't know with real estate, you know, I work every weekend and stuff. So I said, if I can make it, I will gladly come watch them, but. What? I don't know. Do you go to Royal Car Wash with your truck? That's where
I have both my vehicles.
yeah, I've had it since they opened.
Yeah. me
The-
too, but
like the
but
first
I've
week or
noticed a
two.
Big change since they sold it to Gold Car.
So they don't get the back of my car as clean as I wish they would. So I will definitely, plus they don't have the vacuums.
Well, you got a choice. You got the one up in Southtown Plaza, or not Southtown, Suburban Plaza too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sticks out. In front of,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They should put an ice cream store there, coffee shop. Where's our Monte Elbon? Craig, you were supposed to talk to the people at Monte Elbon and get them to go into Bugaboo Creek.
Yeah, I did email them. Well, I asked them to just come in anywhere.
We need we just need a Monte Elbon here.
We need Mexican. Well, so the one that opened in Pittsburgh Plaza is phenomenal.
Yes, I've been there. That's where we go.
Yeah.
Because my sister lives out there, but their margaritas are not as good as Monte Elbon's.
Oh, so I just get a beer, my wife gets a
Yeah. I don't,
They've gotten ridiculous.
I'm excited about the vacuums. Because if the vacuums are good, because, yeah, it's just nice to be able to do that. I just, I go through there like 3 or 4 times.
My screen is bright again.
Oh, you got power.
Yeah, it was down to 5%, so it was in energy save mode.
okay. Wait a minute.
Okay, Jenny, I think we're ready to restart.
All right, we're good.
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution number 10-171/2022 to authorize bills payable for May 11th, 2022.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-172, 2022, to confirm and finalize seeker conditional negative declaration for the Lehigh Ridge project located at the southern ends of Authors Avenue and Nevins Road.
Second.
Any discussion?
So this is just confirming what we voted on
Correct.
previously. And has there been any comments or anything like that? Has anybody?
There has not been any comments beyond what was done at
the public hearing.
But since it's been in its the permissive referendum phase where we were waiting, that we've received no comments on the resolution, so therefore we can close it out.
Okay.
Any other questions? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye. Congratulations, Bruce. I see the developer sitting in the back of the audience. Long wait for.
Yeah, you were very patient.
Take your wife out for dinner.
Or at least take her out for an ice cream.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 10-173, 2022 to call for a public hearing for proposed local law to authorize participation in public meetings via video conferencing.
Second.
So for those unaware, the state changed their open meetings law to allow this. It used to be if someone was participating remotely, it had to be in a public space and advertised. So now basically someone can participate remotely. You have to have a quorum at your main public site.
Okay.
So up to 2 people on the board could be remote, with the other 3 being local.
No, I think this is great. This is going to help with accessibility for a number of different circumstances that could occur.
Agreed. Any further questions? And obviously, this is just calling for the public hearing, but hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-174, 2022 to issue a request for proposals for the Henrietta Department of Public Works cell tower.
Second. So I've been having a bunch of discussions, including with Don. We reached out to the company who consulted with Parenton when they were looking to sell theirs. They actually didn't own their cell tower. What they were selling was essentially a long-term ground lease, lump sum payment. We can sell both the tower and the long-term land lease. So I spoke to that consultant. He didn't really think we needed his services. He thought we were much farther ahead. They had produced some of the analysis that Linda, our finance director, has already done in terms of the payback and all that stuff. So he suggested a hourly contract. I described what it was we'd be looking for him. He said that's probably not going to exceed 6 hours. I think his rate was 170. So if it goes the whole thing, you're looking at under $2,000. So I've asked him to send me the notice for that, or the contract for that. I'm going to just execute that when I get it. We've put together the initial terms. Chris has gotten me all the sections that normally go out in an RFP. And so we'll put that together. We're going to send it to him. He's going to review it. He also has a list of contacts for the predominant buyers of cell towers. So he will actually make sure when the notice is then available, when the RFP is then available next week, he'll make sure it gets to the folks who typically bid on these, especially some of the bigger bidders. So, the one offer we received already was over $1 million. We'll see what the other ones have to say and go from there. So One of the things we've talked about is there's two ways we can handle the tower. We can either do it as a sale of the tower itself, or we can do it as essentially a long-term lease. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. The biggest difference that I see, and I'll ask Don if he's got some other comments, the biggest issue with the sale is going to be the disposition of town property that hasn't been surplused, right? This is not surplus material. But that's also part of why we'd be going through an RFP process, because if we were going to be doing it, it would have to be through an RFP. The advantage that has, and again, the lease is kind of the opposite of these, the advantage that has is if in 15, 30 years, whatever that time limit is, the cell tower is no longer useful and has to be decommissioned, they own it. They're responsible for decommissioning, not us. If we lease it, we're responsible for decommissioning. Now, obviously, the one other advantage, if it's a 30-year lease, in 30 years, some future town board gets to do this again, assuming the tower is still structurally sound and useful. You know, one of the things when we were talking about the potential for the sale, at that $1 million, it represented about a 17 years worth of revenue. We're not sure what cell towers are going to look like in 17 years.
Right.
In 5G, there was a move to what they call the micro cells. So they're the smaller antennas, more of them, but they're not on towers. They're on the top of utility poles.
Yeah.
So for all we know, there'll be no value to this tower in 15, 30 years. So
Right.
That's why we thought it made a lot of sense. And like I said, I just want folks to think about it. We're going to ask for, in the response, they're going to fill out, and they can fill out one, the other, or both. We're going to ask for, you know, here's the lump sum payment versus here is the lease and the length of the lease. And so we'll get to make that decision when we get the responses back. And again, the consultant will review them and let us know whether we got good prices. If we did not, we can then make the decision to reject all bids. So I just wanted to bring that up, get you guys thinking about it. We've got some time. Originally I was looking to do this by June 1st because we wanted to have this consultant review it. And because we needed more time to put it together, we've pushed off having it available to next week. And then I figured I want to give them 30 days to respond. I didn't want to cut anybody out because they say, oh, I'm not going to be able to get a response back in time. So, so that means we're looking at, they'll be opened on June 15th, and it will be the second meeting in June when we'll make that decision. So again, we have time to think about which way we want to go. If we decide one solution is better than the other. If we've made that decision before the stuff is in, I'll want to know that because then I will notify so for instance, if we decide, you know what, we've decided we only want to consider the sale, or we decided we only want to consider the lease. One of the things we do now, we don't put the packet online. We put a location where they can request the packet, and in that request, they have to supply an email, and we email the packet. And the reason we do that is if something happens and we need to notify all of our people who've grabbed the packet, we can. So this way, if over the next 30 days, we decide we want to rule one or the other out, we'll just notify all respondents, we're only interested in a sale, or we're only interested in a lease. But right now, we're allowing for them both, and we could let them respond with both and pick one that, you know, if we decide, you know what, a sale is preferable, but there might be some advantages to the lease if it, you know, if it brought in more revenue or, you know, whatever, we can make those decisions down the road. So
If we do a sale, and forgive me, I was writing notes if I missed you saying this, if we do a sale and it becomes obsolete down the road, it's their responsibility to take care of it, correct?
correct.
Yeah, we can structure it that way, and that's the
Right,
way.
we would write it in that they're responsible for decommissioning.
We'll probably maybe even ask them to put a bond in place. We can think about
Correct.
that.
Yeah. The thing I will note, the land will always be a land lease. We're not going to sell the land.
Right.
It's right in the middle of our DPW yard. So, but like we have in there in terms so that it's right up front, you know, in terms of their access. So during the winter time, it's 24/7 because we have somebody there 24/7. In the summer, we don't have anybody who covers C shift and we don't cover the weekends from dispatch. So in that case, if they need access, we'll respond because we have someone on duty, but they have to pay the on-call charges.
Yeah.
So we're putting all those terms right in the thing right up front. So they understand that and can take that into account with their bid. Because I don't want them to come back with a bid. Then we say, oh, well, you don't have 24/7 access and you'd have to pay on call. Well, then, you know, we're just putting all that stuff right up front. So.
Okay.
Any other questions on that? Craig, coming up.
I just wanted to add in on that.
Don't start talking till you get to that microphone.
Sorry, thanks. Sorry, I just wanted to add in, we do have a surety bond on the tower now, as we own it. And we have also been going back to our records and adding surety bonds to other cell towers in town, that we should have them. If again, a company decides to leave a cell tower, even if we don't own it and walk away, you know, who would be, you know, holding the bag, so to speak, to dismantle or to decommission it? And it would probably be us or somebody else. So we are taking surety bonds for even other towers that we don't own, just to help protect.
Then I will note that if we sell it, well, whether we sell it or lease it, we will require them to have insurance and name us as a co-insured for that tower. Not just in the event that the tower falls, but also in case there's an injury during, you know, installation or maintenance of the antennas on the tower.
Right. And I would either way too, we'll have to just make some sort of provision. We have our own equipment on the tower, our high band and low band. That would probably stay in less than 25 years. We also upgrade our own system for the trucks.
Yeah, so basically we are reserving, we have antennas at two different levels. We're reserving that level of the tower for our use at no charge. And again, the people who currently responded said that is a absolutely normal provision. So that's not an issue. Any other questions? Anything from the public? Not that there's any public left here. Is there any public online, Jenny, or is it all town staff?
All staff.
Okay. And I'm not going to bother asking that question. Hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 10-175, 2022 to join the Monroe County Power Community Choice Aggregation Collective.
Second.
I don't know if they call it a collective, but that's what I call it. The Borg are not involved. So basically in this, for our community choice aggregation, there a number of the towns, they changed the rules slightly to make it easier to do these collectives. So we can all go together. It gets us better buying power. One of the things I made sure with Jewel, is that if the majority of the collective decides that they want to do 100% green energy, but that 100% green energy would represent an increase in the average cost to consumers. And if you remember when we started this, we kind of pledged that we wouldn't do an increased cost. So let's say they went with that, we would have the option of choosing the 50% green if it was less. And obviously if there were no plans that weren't less, we could go without that. Obviously I would prefer to go to 100% green energy. We would get CEC or CSC credits for doing such. But again, especially at this time of inflation, I can't see putting an additional charge. Now, with that said, no matter what we choose, every resident has the ability to opt out. Anybody who's already chosen their ESCO is already opt out. But just to give you an idea how few people actually opt out, 70% of all customers have not chosen an ESCO and therefore would be included. So even just a couple months of a higher bill is not something I'd want to see happen to our residents. So our goal is to get green energy, and with this large a buying power, we might be able to get green energy at the right cost. But even if we only got 50% green energy, that's better than what you got today. So we'll see where it goes. Any questions on that?
I would just say that I think one of the other things that might be important to a lot of people is clarity in the billing process. I've heard a lot of complaints lately about the billing processes, not of the ESCOs, but of utility company in general.
Yeah, so a lot of the billing problems where there's another process called community choice solar, which we're not currently doing. And that's where there seems to be a whole lot of problems, and it's not clear. And I actually think the Public Service Commission needs to redo the way that works, because there's this weird thing about a shared credits, and it gets shared out to the folks, and they get a charge, and then they'll later get a refund for that charge, the credit. And you know, part of the problem is that the utility companies are just passing these things through without looking at them. We've seen a number of instances where the wrong information, you know, whether it was a fat finger error or something else. The good news is, so I've had a couple residents reach out to me when they've had some billing issues. I've reached out to Lori Picardo and Veronica Dasher, who are our RG&E reps, and they got their hold of their billing, and both the problems were resolved. So
good.
We also have National Grid, although I think there's, you know, 20 homes. So the vast majority of town is RG&E, and thankfully they've assigned two really responsive liaisons for us. They've had as you can imagine, with the windstorms we had previously, there's a lot of trees down. This past week, I think their arborist has seen more of Henrietta. Every time someone contacts me for one, they send somebody out and check it out, and typically it gets resolved. You know, like one, there's no way they can get back there to remove them, but they sent someone back to cut it up into smaller pieces. It's down in a wetland, so they can't get in there with something to pull it. But so like I said, I will give RG&E props. They have been very responsive when we've reached out on behalf of our residents. So but I agree with you. That's something I would want to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
And I will say that, you know, it happened in Brighton. Again, it wasn't, a lot of people thought it was a CCA. It's unfortunately, it was the same company, but it was part of the community choice solar, which is slightly different. But yeah, there has definitely been some billing issues. So.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sobranic,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-176/2022 to authorize the supervisor to sign the municipal compliance certificate form to submit as part of the joint annual report for compliance with the Phase 2 stormwater regulations from the Stormwater Coalition of Monroe County.
Seconded.
Okay, Chris writes a summary that's almost as long, I think it's longer than Linda's resolutions. Any comments besides my own? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sobranic,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-177/2022 to award the sewer and drainage garage mechanical, electrical, and plumbing project bid to Pipitone Enterprises LLC, subject to conditions.
Second.
So I'll note that we added a condition that we're in discussions with Pipitone to see if we can get the price reduced at all. They came back with a couple things that we could do that could reduce the price. So I wanted to have the condition in there. That's, you'll see condition 1, final approval by the supervisor relative to budgetary concerns. I want the ability to basically say to Ray, who's the individual we'd be discussing this with, hey, you know, we really need this to come down some. What can we do? But I also didn't want to, there was a talk of we could not approve this. I could have those discussions. We've got to get moving on this, just to be clear. So we don't have a whole lot of time.
For a long time.
Right. If you haven't noticed, the building came down today.
I watched it.
But you know, so Don was asking, do we want to call a special meeting on 2 days' notice? Well, that's a lot of problem. That's a lot of hassle for you guys. It's a lot of hassle for the town clerks. So it just seemed to me to make more sense. Let's make this contingent upon that approval. But we've essentially set the, in other words, if I can get anything from them, it's going to be lower than 360. So we talked about the possibility of rebidding. With the way inflation is today, I'm afraid that it would come back higher. So, you know, but if we can't figure it out, we'll then look to see, can we reduce the scope, or, you know, and we'll go from there. Any questions on that? The other two conditions are pretty standard. Hearing no further discussions, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Millie, you're
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry. Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 10-178, 2022 to authorize the installation of traffic control signs on Colkins Road at Lavender Circle, Fair Avenue, and Beaconsfield Road.
Seconded.
So this is basically it's Fair Avenue with the new apartments, the larger number of apartments. They are looking to add a traffic light, a traffic signal to that intersection. So
Okay, and that's the intersection that comes in and out of the Dome
correct.
Arena? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. That
And
makes
it's
sense
also the eastern entrance into the library.
then. Yes. And the apartments.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-179, 2022 to authorize the installation of a traffic signal on Hawkins Road and Lavender Circle, Fair Avenue.
Second. So this is the second half of that. This one is adding the traffic circle. And if you're wondering why, even though they're county devices, we have to put them in our town code, they're then enforceable and can be ticketed.
So the first one was
Signage.
for signage and new traffic pattern
You got it. And then this one is
for the actual
the actual
signal.
signal. Yep. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 10-180, 2022. Whereas about every 2.5 minutes, a person in the United States is diagnosed with lung cancer, with over 236,000 new cases, and sadly, over 130,000 deaths each year, making it the deadliest of all cancers in the United States. And whereas lung cancer is more likely to strike those who are older, those who currently smoke or have previously smoked more than 20 pack years in their lifetime, or those with a family history of lung cancer. And whereas scheduled annual screenings, especially for those who are in one of the high-risk categories above, can allow the cancer to be detected at an earlier stage when it is small and before it is spread, resulting in a much greater chance of successful treatment, including increasing the 5-year survival rate by more than 3-fold. And whereas many people have put off health screenings due to the COVID pandemic and should begin resuming those scheduled annual screenings, and whereas public awareness and support is important, not just for increased research funding to find better treatments and better methods of early detection, but also in getting people to schedule the early screenings. And so the American Lung Association has declared the second week in May as Turquoise Takeover Week as part of its Lung Force National Initiative to raise awareness and to help defeat lung cancer. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board hereby decrees that this second week in May is Turquoise Takeover Week throughout the town of Henrietta, and encourages all residents and businesses to help spread the word and to learn more about lung cancer, risk factors, and early detection screenings.
Second.
So as I think it was Becky who said, this was the most depressing of these that we've read. The survivability for late, if you find it late, is like 19%. That's it for 5 years. So it is very deadly. It's very important to get it caught early. I will comment that I find it funny that it gets only a week. Seems to me it should be a whole month.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that, there's a misconception out there that lung cancer only impacts those who have smoked, and that's not the case. I had a very dear friend whose husband passed away of lung cancer, and he never smoked a day in his life. So there's a big stigma sometimes attached to lung cancer, and it's not always tied to smoking.
Agreed. Any further comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Volsner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-181/2022 to declare an item surplus material from the Recreation Department.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Volsner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 10-182/2022 to make appropriate transfers and adjustments per the 2022 adopted budget.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Volsner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 10-183/2022 to hire personnel, make the attached changes, and make the progression increases.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Volsner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye. That concludes our resolutions. There's no public to make discussion items. I ask that we keep our committee and miscellaneous reports brief. There's something critical coming up. Otherwise, let's get us and our interpreters out of here. They've got to be a little tired. Anybody have anything?
I attended the fire commissioners meeting last night. There's a list of one of the things that, and maybe Chuck's spoken to you, but they're going to have to do some paving at the new facility at Station 6. So the fire department is going to come to the town because they know that they do paving now. So they're going to come and see if it's possible that the town could do the paving for Station 6, depending on their schedule. Chuck Marshall's going to be the liaison for that. And the rest of it was
Just different things, nothing special.
For school, when is the schedule for the budget?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yep. So budget and school board vote.
Yeah,
uh,
Tuesday, yep.
Yep.
And what's the time?
Well, it's like 6 a.m. till 9 p.m, something like that at the
The
Transportation Operations
Transportation
Center.
Center again, yes. Mhm.
Great. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say I was able to attend my first diversity committee meeting last night and very excited with the progress that's being made and the leadership. Special thanks to Steve Lovey for stepping up and helping that board to start to get off the ground here.
I will say that both ad hoc committees have fabulous leadership between
Yes.
Pat Wardinger and Steve Lovey. People very invested in, the goals of their respective committees and very dedicated and hardworking to really get this stuff off the ground. So it's great that we have such great residents in our town and willing to help.
Yeah.
So,
Neighbors helping neighbors.
yep.
Library, the art show for the children started today for K through 12, and I'm very proud. My granddaughter has something exhibited in the show, so I was there at 4 o'clock today. The library has tomorrow at 7 o'clock has a seminar, The History of School Segregation in Rochester. So I think that looks really interesting for tomorrow night.
Great.
Is this, no, there have been art pieces up there for a while.
These are brand new as of today.
These are new? Okay.
Yeah, these are new ones. They just started today.
Great.
So
That's it. I don't have anything other than what we've already discussed.
Maybe at some point you could update us on the status of where the replacing the LED lights in town, owning them and updating them. We don't have to do it now, Craig. Let's put it on.
I can give you 2 minute update. I mean, right now it's at the Public Service Commission. They're reviewing the contract.
Okay.
And they have, I think, almost 90 days. So we're trying to get that moving, but it's not an organization you can ask too much.
Sure. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I will second. Hearing no objections, meeting adjourned.
Hey, Donnie.
Thank you very much.